Hey there, record loving friend. How do you do? Yes, it's another day, it's another weekend, and I am just going for it. Yeah, again, you got to strike while the iron's hot. You got to take a bite out of life. And I am streaming for another morning in a row. My crew is like, okay, that's good. I'm live. My crew is asleep. I have a little bit of time to the living room to have to myself, and so yeah, it's time for me to get in what laps I can while I can. I had a big day yesterday, a very big day. I had I made both a video. I recorded a video. I edited a video. I should say, I I envisioned a video for a very long time that I finally made yesterday morning, and then I just needed to take a break from it because it was a rather intense video that I made, and then had a really nice live stream with Mazzy, and then I spent the rest of the day editing the video, just trying to take out all the ums and ahs and try to make it as concise as I possibly could, and then published it last night, and I spent like the entire day Saturday, like, working at the computer. It was a little bit the crew was all everybody was off playing with their friends, and I had some time, so it was fine, but yeah, it was a rather, labor-intensive day yesterday, and here, I'll give you s I just pulled up a couple of previews here. I really hope my thing doesn't go crashing all over the place. So it was pretty interesting because I shared this rather vulnerable video of me choking up pretty seriously on camera. I was talking about I was grieving. It was a intense video, a very personal video I made about an album that I really love and how it connects me to a really good friend of mine, and um, who I lost. And I was just talking about it was really a sort of subversive way to celebrate him and to just remember him and l- l- love on this record that I just like. It's been such a key record to me over the last few years, and I've just listened to it 1,000 times, and it was great. It was just a catharsis to be able to go through the actual video and to just get it done. Like, I was really not dreading it per se, but just like, yeah, it was an interesting exercise to put oneself out there in a way to be judged, to take a risk, and I admit it's a it might not be your cup of tea. My channel might not be your cup of tea, but um yeah, I just thought about what it would mean to put out something like this, and going back and like watching it a year or two from now might be really interesting. So it's really uh emotional video that I made, and then following that video, I got off and was like, whoa, that was heavy. And I had a nice little video where I came up with Mazzy came up to a live stream, and we talked about his book. I actually scored a copy of his book. um oh, I just dropped it. There's the jacket. The Beatles England. It was really fun. We just went through the thing page by page, and had a really, really good time talking about it. So then after I was with Mazzy for a couple hours, we went on for quite a while. I spent the whole day just editing videos. You guys don't do this, I think. I think a lot of people aren't like, I don't know, like, are you guys doing, are you editing out your ums and ahs from your videos, your you knows, and these things? God, I've edit out like 10,000 of them. I feel like there's like a 10,000 little I'm cutting them all out and just trying to condense it down. The video started out as 2 hours and 13 minutes, and I cut it down to like 50 minutes. So there was 23 minutes of ums. 23 minutes of ums and ahs. Well, there was a couple just sections that I just cut out, but a good chunk of those were ums and ahs. So, let's see here for a second. Um, yeah, and went to sleep and like woke up and I know it's against my better judgment to put out a 50-minute video or a 40-minute or an hour long, or I think one of my videos was even like 2 hours long. I know that is not the standard practice to do, but I'm not really I wanna do it the right way, but I also wanna do it my way, and so I keep doing it the way that I wanna do it, and for it to have been a 2-hour video or for it to have been a 50-minute video, I needed to go into the world of headiness. I needed to get inside the thing. Like a great way to like really connect with music is to play it, like to go cover somebody's song and to play it dozens and dozens of times until you get inside the song, and that's when you can really feel what the artist might be thinking, and that's when it takes on a whole new thing. But just spending time with something again and again and more, it really binds you to the music. And I was just thinking about so I have another video that I wanted to put out today and this weekend, because I'm just like I'm biting at the what am I biting at the bit, chomping at the bit to like get this other video out. But I decided that, well, you know what? I'm actually going to take another week to wait for this one. I'm not just going to because what that extra week will allow me to do is that here, I'll give you a sneak peek. I've got like 50 records that all have some notes. Every single one of them has like a page that I've written up about. I'm going to talk about photography, a little sneak peek. I'm going to talk about photography for 50 records. And on every single one, I've found out like who the photographer is and, what's going on and who was the art director. And it's not really about like art direction or design, although I thought that would be an interesting video as well. It's more about like, who the photographer was. And it was an incredible, or it keeps evolving into this incredible experience of learning about photography. Oh, interesting. They have something new here. Anyway, so I didn't want to I thought I'll just do it. I keep saying to myself, I'll just do it. I'll just do it. I'll just do it. Maybe I'll do it on a live stream. Maybe it'll just, but I have to temper myself and be like, no, 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 no. Don't do it that way. Don't do it that way. We spend time making these videos and we want to get them out there and we want to get everybody to see them, but we should, they say like one of the practices that you should do is like, and nobody knows this to really be true or not, but like you should upload your video and you have to give it that 10 minutes or 20 minutes, depending on how long the video is, 30 minutes for it to like do its thing, right? For the algorithms to do their thing and for it to check out all your, the language and I don't know, whatever they have to do. And then, it's also said that if you let it sit there for 24 hours, it will also pull out, the transcription, and that will pull out a bunch of keywords. And if you give it a day, an entire 24 hours, it will find a better audience so it can give your video to a better audience, right? So you can have more whatever. And but we're so excited that our video is finally up that we just click publish, right? And it just goes up. I'm very guilty of that. I just want to get it out there. I don't want to wait. And yeah, so today's video that I want to talk about, this photography thing, I'm gonna like just give myself another week on it, and what it's gonna allow me to do, what I've already done it's like taken me a month. I've got a really lovely spot. I have like during the pandemic, I sprung for some really nice office chairs, and I don't mean like I'll show them off someday, but they're like they're well made, sort of high design Eames style, kind of Herman Miller-ish design chairs, but they're old school and they're vintage. And I have two matching ones. One's for me and one for my kids. And the one for my kids, and they're slightly different design, but they go together well. And the one that my kids are using, I've got 50 or 60 records that have just been sitting here for a month. Like I pulled them out, I thought about them, and then I was ready. And then I was like, no way, I should write it out. And then I waited another, and then I wrote it out. And then I was like, no, wait, I should print it. No, it should be chronological. How should I order it? And I kept thinking about it more and more. And I actually was kind of crippled by my overthinking it. And it just kept, it turned into like a a procrastination, a giant exercise in procrastination where I just kept waiting and waiting. And today I was going to do it today because I have the morning to do it. But then I realized there's like one more step I want to do from yesterday's. I learned from yesterday. Yesterday's video, I went into depth about a record called Ghost of the Forest. And I read a bunch of articles about it. I watched a documentary that I'd already seen before, and I made some handwritten notes and I made some highlighted notes. I took like a survey course, a 1-week survey course in a self-studies program, essentially, in this album called Ghost of the Forest. And it was really rewarding to be able to like quickly reference the notes that I made and to quickly have the highlighted parts jump out of my eye. And like, I don't know if that's the best way to make a video, maybe it's better if it's all scripted out and here right in front of me, but it helped me get through that really rather tough video. And if I didn't have some of those cheats, I don't know if it would have been what it was. I'm happy with the video, actually, to be honest. And whether it gets viewed or doesn't really have to do with whether or not I can like it, but I'm pleased with it. And so anyway, I'm going to give myself another week to do this. So I said, no, don't do it today, Brian. Wait a little bit longer and just give it a little bit more thought. Let it soak in a little bit more, just a little bit more. And then I thought about it. What will happen is if I let it sink in a little bit more, I will burn it to memory. If I almost don't have it burned to memory. Some of it I do, but I did this thing where I basically wrote 60 pages, about all these different records. Basically, every album has its own page. And I went in and found the designer, found the photographer, and I made this little system for myself. And I like pulled out all the main talking points about the record, not necessarily to talk about them, but to like think about them and to know about them and to learn about them and to level up and to be like, oh yeah, that's the third record of their discography or whatever, But I didn't go through that highlighting process that I did on yesterday's video. And I think that was really actually quite valuable, because if you get stuck somewhere, your eyes can jump to some highlighted thing, and maybe you've got it all burned to your memory, and maybe you're extra special knowledgeable. And that's actually what I want to talk about today, that you don't have to highlight things and you don't need to write things down. But yeah, I guess I don't have the IQ points, or I don't have the memory to retain a lot of this stuff. And I don't know, I there's more appreciation for me to be had to like revisit it again and actually to forget it and then remember it, than to forget it again. I get to experience this kind of amnesia. I get to live it all over again. So that had me, just thinking about the photo that I posted today on today's thumbnail was one of my, it was like one of the first years that I came to Japan. And I must have been 20 something, barely 28 years old, 27 years old, something like this. And I was thinking about my college days. I was very fortunate to, I attended University of Colorado in Boulder, which is so nice, such a nice school. And it took me a while to like get in there and like figure it all out. And I was like an in-state resident before I went, and like it was a lot to it. But I spent essentially 10 years in Boulder, and I was on campus all the time, not just for the years that I was in school, but all just passing through. Like you can cut through campus and you can walk through campus, and it's just like I knew the campus quite well before I ever stepped foot in a classroom. And one of the things that made it really cool was the International Film Series. There's a great film school there, actually, and there's a really cool international film series, and run by my friend Pablo Koseth or something. What's Pablo's last name? Really interesting dude who's a little bit of a music. He's somebody. He's made kind of a name for himself for being an amazing curator of cinema and I know some people who've come out of the film school who are hardworking in Hollywood. So I don't know what's going on in that film school, but I've seen some interesting things come out of that was available to the public. Essentially, the planetarium was open to the public. The stadium, the years that I was there weren't concerts going on. There were concerts in the 70s. Folsom Field is the name of the stadium, the field at CU Boulder. It houses, like, I don't know, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 people. It's huge. It's enormous. Maybe it's 50,000, but it's enormous. I want to say that Boulder's like the city itself, and maybe it's expanded. The city has like bought up this green belt around the city so that it can't grow too big. They don't, it's the Republic of Boulder. It's the bubble of Boulder. But there's satellite towns all around Boulder, but they've basically bought up all this property so that the city can't get any bigger. And it's very, very charming. And it's unfortunately become extremely expensive, and it's pushed out anything kind of cool that was there. Although if you can work it, you can live in Boulder. But it's like 300 sunny days a year, and it's like right there, access to all the mountain stuff and waterfalls and hot springs and mountain biking and rock climbing and giant world-class outdoors things, and the Continental Divide, and you're just 40 minutes ish from Rocky Mountain National Park, and Denver is 30 minutes in the other direction. It's a little paradise in America. I had to get away from there. I had to, like, finally, after 10 years, I had to be like, this place it's too provincial for me. It's just too small, and it's too insulated, and everybody is too generic in a way. Not it's just like everybody's wearing the hiking boots, and everybody's got the $1,000 bicycle, and everybody's got the little, everybody it's just a little bit. And when I came to Tokyo, it was like, whoa, it's like giant blinders opened up. But I feel very, very fortunate that I got to spend my years there in Boulder and seeing tons of great music at the Boulder Theater. God bless Boulder. Boulder just had like a horrible tragedy that happened there. And I've been seeing it a little bit on the news. I haven't followed the whole story. I saw a little video clip happen right downtown, right at the courthouse. Places where we used to demo, and places where we used to just hang out, see music. There's tons of music on the streets of Pearl Street Mall. And and my friend Miss Jean had an amazing little head shop right there, right where this tragedy happened. And God, my heart goes out to the city. Boulder's special. Boulder's a special little place. I mean, it's got its faults, but it's really a special little place. And I'm getting back to records here, I promise. But I'll mention the record stores. Bart's CD Cellar was where I started buying records. Wax Tracks. I can't remember if I can't really remember Wax Tracks. There were two record stores on the hill. The hill being the college district. There's like one little strip of bars and pizza joints and little cafes, and the Fox Theater is right there on the hill. And the Fox Theater attracts everybody. Everybody's played the Fox Theater. I mean, I don't know, the White Stripes, Strokes. I mean, I saw tons of, like, too many to remember, really. I mean, Medeski, Martin Wood, Chris Wood is from Boulder. The Samples, all my buddies from like the Motet and String Cheese, and even Fish played there. And God, I would like to know. I mean, I would like to know who played the Boulder Theater. The Fox Theater. The Fox Theater is tiny. It's big, and they've got a sound system that'll blow you away. A huge, awesome. It's a black box. It's just a simple black box, and maybe it's the same Fox Theater that you find all over the country, but it's an awesome, rocking, hard venue. And it's a little bit of a dive, a little bit seedy, and it's like there's beer spilled everywhere. It's kind of a little bit of a dump, but it's also a legendary place to see a show. And if you want to go see something at the theater, the Boulder Theater, which is a different vibe altogether, that's a nice place to sit down and watch a show. It's also a nice place that you can get up and dance. but something about the vibe of the place doesn't allow for a beer to be thrown at the ceiling like the Fox Theater has. It's fun. It's got a special thing to it. Saw Gomez there. Saw, who did I see? God, I mean, Moldy Peaches, Ween. I mean, I don't know, a cool, like really awesome college venue. I'm trying to think of who else I might have seen there. It'd be a place where, like, the band would play Folsom Field, and or some big theater in Denver, and then like the solo thing with the two guys, or the three-piece would come play at Fox. Fox is really cool, run by the very charismatic Don Strasberg for years, who is now like head of Live Nation or something like that. Don Strasberg, Boulder institution. So that was a great place to grow up and see music. And this guy who I was grieving yesterday was the guy who ran the Boulder Theater, which was the competing theater, who was kind of like frenemies with the Fox Theater. And the Boulder Theater is down on Pearl Street Mall, and probably 100 years old. And the university has been there since like 1889 or 1917, or maybe 1817. I don't know how long it's been. A long time. It's a very old institution. And I'm getting back to records, I promise. But the Bart's CD cellar up on down on Pearl Street Mall. And let's just see here for a second. Wait, hold on, sorry. After White Stripes, okay. Oh wait, it's Quadrophenia. Yeah, Bart's CD cellar. Dun, 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 dun. Bart's CD cellar and record shop. Without music, life would be a mistake. 1015 Pearl Street, Colorado. And I worked just down the road at Dot's Diner. And then up on the hill, there was Wax Tracks, and there was records on the albums on the hill. And I waited in line, when the new Fish records came out. I waited in line at midnight to buy records at these places. And it was super fun. So the thing about Boulder, oh, hey there's a comment. What's up, Paul? Nice to see you, bud. How you doing? Welcome. Yeah, I'm just talking about records here. I had a big YouTube day yesterday and have a little time to myself, and powered each and every morning, as Paul always says on his stream, by my coffee here. And but something I was thinking about, Bart's, okay, the records. Yeah, so that's where I started my kind of record collecting journey, sort of. It was CDs and the mall and cassettes long before that. But it was like when it was in Boulder, where I was like, wait a second, $2 for Led Zeppelin? That makes way more sense than $14, at the Sam Goody or whatever. And so one of the amazing things that the University of Colorado at Boulder has, besides this film school I mentioned a moment ago, and besides, I think, a pretty good law school and a pretty good medical school, and nefarious connections to what's the place called? Like NORAD, maybe, and some of these like atmospheric and labs that are up in the mountains, and they have special telescopes that because for whatever reasons, there's a lot of reasons, but there's a lot of engineering, and Lockheed is famously in Columbine, where the Columbine situation was, right? And a lot of the intelligence that comes out of Boulder ends up in those places. And I think Boulder has, like, as far as like a public institution, which I don't exactly, is it a public institution? All these things have gotten a little gray over the years, but like they have like 11 Nobel Prizes, and all in physics and engineering. So there's an incredibly rich physics department there, which is onto itself. And there's heaps of like offices filled with tenured professor emeritus dudes who, like there's a giant pendulum outside of the like 6-story tall pendulum that's hanging outside of the physics building, and it's intimidating. The level of intelligence that's going on in there is a little intimidating. And my brother-in-law also studied engineering there. Anyway, where was I going with that? Engineering, CU. Oh, okay. So on campus, there's also this amazing annual conference. Oh, did you know that Cans or not Cans? Excuse me. What's the one? Robert Redford one in Utah, Park City. It's moved. It's moved to Boulder. Boulder is inheriting the Sundance Film Festival. I'm not exactly sure why, but that's going to be a huge boon for the city. And this thing that I'm about to mention is probably one of the reasons that it was able to inherit the festival, the Sundance Film Festival, is that it also is the annual home of the International Conference on World Affairs. Now, I don't know if this is still going on, but this was a thing that I looked forward to every year. And it was this free campus-wide symposium. It was like Art Basel almost. Like the entire campus was filled with panels and talks and just a calendar of events, like a festival of influencers, authors, writers, storytellers, scientists. It was super, super cool. And they would put like an artist with an engineer with a cleric, and with all like this mix of people on these panels, and they'd all be debating pornography or storytelling or just all kinds of manner of topics. Very, very fun. And you could like drop into one and then drop into the other, and it was like super fun. And you just had this like big calendar, like, oh, I'm gonna go to this at 2, I'm gonna go to that at 3. One of the highlights of the conference on world affairs was that I got to meet Patch Adams, the real Patch Adams. And he was so cool, and he was so funny, and he was so charming, and he was so even more Patch Adams than I could have possibly imagined. Super interesting guy who just had this like aura about him that was so contagious. And I just will never forget having the opportunity to meet him. And so what I was thinking about, I started talking about how like records, like as I can learn more about them, as I give myself the opportunity to sort of study them more and study the music, the more I've kind of like appreciate it. And I feel like the last 3 years that I've been kind of doing YouTube, or maybe it's just only been 2, I feel like despite having music as part of my life for my whole life, I don't think I have absorbed as much musical knowledge. I can't say I've retained a whole lot of it, but I've collected so much since joining YouTube and since kind of like being part of this vinyl community that it's kind of profound. It's humbling. And I was just thinking about like the level of knowledge that exists among this group of misfits is kind of is a little insane. I mean, I did take like a history of jazz class in college. It was like a survey class, or like a level 1 class, but it was incredibly informative. And the guy who was the teacher was this hip cat. I think he played a little bit of everything, and he taught me about jazz. And he was like, "Doesn't matter that much, man. Like, take a chill out." He was just like this super cool Dave. What was his name? Super cool guy. Played guitar, and the way that he played guitar was just so funny and chill. And I know that course is offered in colleges across the country, but like that's one level of musical study, right? That's I don't feel like he somehow is credited and qualified to teach students about music. None of us on here, I think, are exactly qualified. We don't have degrees in, what's the word, help me out here, pedagogy in the art of teaching, the science of teaching. But this guy did, right? But we have I don't, but you guys have an immense amount of knowledge. It's crazy. I mean, I know these guys who run music studios and who work in show business and who are in the bands, they know this stuff back and forth. But I think that among us Yahoos on Yahoo on YouTube, there is enough information to enough knowledge to really, I don't know exactly what, but this was my thought, to create a conference. That was the thought I woke up with this morning, is that I I didn't want to rob myself of this experience of making today's video that I really wanted to make today. I didn't want to rush. I didn't want to rob myself of the experience of getting a little bit more academic with it and getting a little bit more heady with it and just highlighting it a little bit more and having a little bit more marginalia, new word I learned recently, having a bit more just time to study and in as much level up my appreciation. I don't know if I wish I could kind of measure how much was there, before I came to the vinyl community and how much is here now. I don't know. I wonder. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of imagining it, but it seems palpable. It seems the amount of knowledge that is here just in, like, this book that I'm talking about with, Mazzy, or these jazz bum guys, or, me, who's like poking around Tokyo, or, a panel over on the Concert Buddies, or the obscure guys. I mean, there's like so much. And the music store, the record store owners, good grief. There's just that contingency alone has got to be insane. What if, I mean, pie in the sky, I don't know if this is actually a good idea or a bad idea. You have the record fairs, right, that people go to, these national record fairs that people travel around the country for. I don't know. This would be in my wheelhouse. This is something that I do. I host events. I have a 10-year, I have like a 15-year photography career. And then I sort of presented my photography. I continually was presenting my photography works on stages and talking about various projects that I was doing. And it was one of these organizations that was like, there was a unique opportunity for me to kind of to expand on that. But the very special, unique thing about it is that I could kind of not exactly transition out of photography, but I could go into kind of a new field, a new career field, and still also retain all my photography stuff. So I'm having cake a little bit and eating it too, because I get to still be a photographer and photograph almost like every week. It's rare that a week will go by that I don't do some photography thing, like work, like proper commercial work related type stuff. And yet I've been doing that like this, and then I run this other little company that's more broadly creative. And yeah, it's just so what I'm doing is I'm getting people together to talk about creativity and design and architecture and fashion and art. So what I thought would be like, there are these guys who like these influencer conferences, right? I'm just articulating this to myself right in this very moment. But like, you see these guys on YouTube are like, we're having the, YouTube influencer conference. It's $300 or $3,000 or whatever it is, and you can come and learn from Alex Hermosi and Casey Neistat, or whatever these guys' names are, and all these famous YouTubers, and you can learn how to grow your channel from, or whatever it might be. It could be like doesn't necessarily have to be a YouTube related thing, but I was imagining, like, what if, like, Harry, our friend, had Harry's Music Room, had like hosted a, like, owning a record store, or Matt from Too Many Records, who documented his journey of starting a record store, or the guy who owns Permanent Records in LA, who's on YouTube, or the In Groove, the Mike at In Groove. I mean, what if those four guys got on a panel and talked about, the trials and tribulations of owning a record shop, or it was like one of those guys, and then you got like a Joey Callio character who's like not in the record store business. He's in the music. He's a front man of a musical act. And then you've got another guy who's like in the record pressing plant. And then the Chad Chasm dude. And then you have another, like, and you can curate these panels of people to talk about specific things, not necessarily the fields that they are in, but to get four unique perspectives from four unique voices in music loving, music knowing world. That would be so freaking cool. Like, go to a record fair and yeah, okay, you're digging for records, but then like that's just part of it. The other part is like the conference, the symposiums that are going on, and at the hotel, in the conference room, or maybe at some cool, restaurant or bar where there's a screen and beers and people with a microphone, and they're doing like presentations and they're talking about their Beatle journey or their, metal thing or the time they met the story, or stand up. I know there's a couple of like stand up people out there. That would be so fun. It would be so cool. Yeah, that was where I wanted to get to. So yeah, what do you think? What do you think? That would be the idea. I mean, it's just, a pipe dream idea, and a super hard idea, but it would be an interesting way to like leverage to get more. I think right now, I think what YouTube is for us, very much so. I think that um, YouTube is like it's a chance for us to get more mileage out of our musical loving. It's a chance. It sounds a little bit weird to like make it sort of transactional like that, but it's a way to like we love music. We love it sharing it with other people. There's not that many opportunities to share it with other people. We can't ironically play it on YouTube for licensing reasons or online just at all, or even in public. We're not supposed to without, without the proper people, and we wouldn't want to either. But so being here in the vinyl community or whatever, in the music loving community, whether how tenuous your connection is to it, um it's your chance to go off. Like I went off on this record yesterday, or to go off on, what I'm going to do this week or this month. It's a way for us to like, not just buy a record and go home and listen to it by ourselves, but a way to share more. And I was just thinking from a little bit of an academic point of view, a little sort of, yeah, a little professorial, collegiate kind of. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the conference on the Vinyl Community Conference on Music Loving 2025. We're here at the the University of Colorado campus, and we're kicking off this week-long event, this week-long calendar of panels with a keynote speech from legendary rocker and blah 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 da 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 da, and that would just be so fun. And like between the conferences, you'd have like you go buy records, you go to record shops, and then talk about music and live shows. Like I guess this is what any music festival kind of is anyway. But just to add like a little bit of audience participation, a little high stakes, low stakes, but a little bit more oomph. You got to give it a little bit more. You got to there's some homework to be done, but like the best kind. And to make a conference like that. I thought that was a pretty good idea. Maybe not. Maybe not. Okay. Well, I think I've kind of shared what records I scored recently. Kind of. I've been streaming records over on Twitch, which is kind of fun. It was just it's a little tricky. And it's kind of, but it's an interesting learning experience. And I could do it here as well, but I just don't want to. Over there, it's slightly lower stakes, so it's fun to do over there. I don't have anybody watching, and it's cool because it's just like, okay, there's no pressure. But I'm not really, mixing records, or I'm listening to sides of records, which is kind of a fun way to listen to music, with an audience or with some people who are tuning in. but yeah, I picked up a couple of records the other day on a whim. This is a perfect example. Oh, I see another comment. Hey, Gary, let me get to your comment here in a second. Um, okay, so yes, I keep, I don't know if I can. I have our friends at Northern Revolutions, Rob at Northern Revolutions, who's got a great channel and hosts a great panel every Wednesday night, I think his time, Thursday morning my time, or maybe it's Friday morning. He's like a massive fan of Blue Rodeo. This I think I didn't really know about them. There's a little indie rock, indie country Americana, North Americana kind of. You guys know Blue Rodeo, and he's a super fan. And he's as much of a super fan as Mazzy is about the Beatles, or that I am about Fish, or that you are about Metallica or Sabbath or whatever. And it had me thinking about like loyalty the other day, and about like, what it takes to like give all your loyalty to a band, and how that kind of might work against you. You take the bad with the good, and maybe they get panned. Maybe a band's recent release gets totally panned by critics and by the public at large, and they should get back to form, and it's terrible. And yet you're like, but wait, it's not as bad as I like it. And they're like, yeah, you like it because you're not critically thinking. It's not critically good. You're just you're a fanboy. But I think when you get to a certain age in life, these kinds of things start to matter a little bit less and less. And, you don't need to apologize if you love U2, or, if it's a crime to love U2, then I'm guilty as charged, or Coldplay, or name the band that you want to that's not cool enough. Or I heard Dave Matthews getting just blindsided the other day. I am not a Dave Matthews fan at all, only because I have not gone down the rabbit hole yet. But people, every time it's not becoming of you guys out there who are just like, Dave Matthews. I'm just like, what did he ever do to you? I'm like, I hate I'm like, what? Okay, chill out. All right. Just give it a chance. Right. I mean, I'm certainly going to. I'm a little guilty for not knowing his discography at all, but come on, like that. What music is all about, being open to new things. This has been the most revelatory thing about doing the Japan vinyl tag that I'm still doing, believe it or not. I'm barely halfway through. I'm listening to everybody's records, and it has been in all these 48. I am 49 this year. And all of these years of loving music, this has been the most rewarding year musically. I'm our top 3, I would say, because I have unlocked something inside me, which has been the key to coming to appreciate and liking something without necessarily enjoying it. Or I should say, maybe the alternative, or the vice versa, enjoying something without necessarily liking it. I don't have to understand it. I don't have to It doesn't have to be my thing. It doesn't have to like be in the genres that I like. It doesn't have to be anything for me to appreciate it. That has been profound. I have found that by listening to music that like intentionally, like getting, just here's a perfect example. This guy who's I'm on right now, Mick is the guy's name. Mick, forgive me. He's got a great channel, and I haven't interacted with him before on YouTube, and he kind of came out of nowhere for me. I know these algorithms, they don't feed me all your channels, right? Or they don't feed us all each other's channels, and sometimes I'll find out there's somebody I should have known about a long time ago that everybody seems to know except for me, because I don't know why I didn't. But at any rate, Gary, I'm coming to your comment here in a second, but talk about stream of consciousness. This guy Mick, like, I guess the word Japan piqued his curiosity. He was like, oh, that's a vinyl tag I can get on board with, because it's very obvious that this guy knows Japanese music better than any of us. I should say that there's a lot of people out there in VC world that know a lot about Japanese music, and I don't mean just like, I mean like deep, deep knowledge, much deeper than me, who's been here for 20 plus years. So the level of the level of like, interest is big outside of Japan. And he comes on and I'm about number 10 on his list, and all 10 of the records have been these very experimental records. Some of them are, so one of them I think has the question of my notation, music, question mark, question mark, question mark. I'm like, is this really? And you kind of like, you have to be like, really, who's listening to this, who's buying this, like, what's the point of this, really? I mean, like, really, you like this, a 2-year-old could do this, it's like some of the stuff feels like that. And it's not just Japanese music, you can find this anywhere, but like one of the and like 3 of the albums that I've listened to so far have been like 2 hours of music. I've had to like endure 2 hours of harsh noise. Like for 2 hours. And I'm like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to give up. And then you don't give up, and you power through, you like break through a wall, and then it's there again. And you're like, I don't want to give up. I promised I'd do this. I want to keep my promise. And maybe there's something here. Maybe there's something, if I can just get through this, I can get to something. And then I was like, I can't take it. I just can't. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to turn it off. And you're like, no, and finally the last, and it's over, and you got through it, and you say, wow, that was a journey. That was a crazy interesting journey. And you didn't have to like be hooked by a lick, you didn't have to be like, it didn't have to. And maybe you're thinking, well, I wouldn't waste my time, like, why bother listening to shit you don't want to listen to? Because it actually like helped me know this guy. It helped me understand like it helped me think like, why did this guy why did the guy, not just the guy who bought it, like why the guy who made it, what was he thinking? Like what's going on with this kind of music? Like, just as one example, and I gotta say, it was extremely rewarding. I am very lucky to have spent a year backpacking around Asia, and I went to, and you've all had this kind of experience, but like I went to the top of the Himalayas. I didn't go to the top where you have to like, it wasn't like that with oxygen or anything like that. It was as far as you can go, and in a little bit more than people go. But I got on top of the world and I saw the whole thing. It was amazing. And it took me 7 days to get there of this. I fucking hate this. I hate this, not really, but like it took me 7 days, maybe. It took me 20 years, really, is what it took me. But it took me like from the trailhead to the final top of the mountain. It took me 7 straight days to get there. And can you imagine? It's just like, it's an amazing, what is it? It's just like, it's an amazing gift, really, to be able to experience something so interesting, something so human, something so meta or supernatural. I don't even know how to articulate it, but that has been the profound thing about appreciating music this year, is that I found a new way to love music, is that I don't have to love the music for me to be able to love it. If it binds me to, if it connects me to a person, if I really make that intent. I think a lot of us, like, we make vinyl tags and we say, hey, I don't like this record, or I like this record, or I don't like this record, or I like this record. But for my thing, and this is not to be like whatever, but I wanted to do it for myself, not to be acknowledged or to be for the listener to be like, oh, he listened to my 20 records. I did it. It was selfish. I mean, it turns out that it's like a win-win. I have a, I'm sorry, I'm just like going off on tangents here. I think I got this from my volunteer project because I have this really wonderful volunteer project that I've been doing for 13 years, I think, since 2011. And 14, I guess we're up to. It's still going on. We got another, I can't believe it's still going on. We're doing a project in 2 weeks. And it just continues. And it's using photography as like a way to do goodwill projects. And I got accused at multiple times during these 14 years of having ulterior motives for doing this volunteer work. And people have said, I know why you're really doing this. And I'm like, okay, what not, it's very obvious, you're, I've been accused of all kinds of stuff. It's like, like I'm doing it for personal reasons, or I'm not altruistic and it's all narcissism, or I've been accused of it. And the first few times I heard it, it was devastating. It was like, no, what? Why would you think that? And it broke my heart. But then I started to understand that it was like coming from places where like people, like they had no, like it was coming from self insecurity, not mine, but theirs. And it was like, I wrestled with it, and I came out the other side with a clear understanding of what I was at. And these people who make these kinds of accusations, they don't know. Unfortunately, like they've never had the opportunity. They've never like given themselves that gift of giving, or it's just anyway, I'm kind of tripping over my words here, but I'm okay with it. And I know what it does. I know I've experienced it first time repeatedly, repeated so many times that I could not know it. You can't. I've done the 10,000 hours or whatever it is that you need to do to know it back and forth. I've done it so many times, and that's not to say I've done it so many times. It's just a matter of fact. Kobe Bryant's got a great lesson that he talks about how he's practicing, and he showed, and one of his teammates or one of his opponents maybe is just showing up at the same practice gym when he arrives, and his opponent arrives at like 7 a.m. and Kobe's already there practicing, and he practices from 6 until noon, and like his opponent comes and practices from like 7 to 11. And Kobe's got 2 extra hours on both sides of his practice. He's got an extra 6 to 7 a.m. and the other 11 to 12 p.m. He skips lunch to practice. And then in the afternoon, Kobe goes back and practices some more. And then his opponent comes an hour after his afternoon practice and says, when do you go home? When do you ever go home? And like, why don't you go enjoy your life a little bit? And Kobe said that, like, at some point, there's no amount of practicing your opponent could do to catch up to you. And that's not a brag, but that's just like Kobe's playing because he loves the game. Of course he loves to win, I'm sure. But I mean, yeah. So I've done the hours, and not because I want to one up anybody else or I want to get more points or more hours in, but because I love it. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. And it's easy. It's dead. It's super easy. And if it were hard, I probably wouldn't do it, but it's easy and fun, and it makes a difference in people's lives. So I keep doing it. So I don't really need to be, I don't need to, when somebody accuses me of saying something, or when somebody accuses me of, that I'm doing something unaltruistically, I'm like, okay, sure. Okay. I'm sorry that you feel that way. I'm gonna go over it. 48 years old. These are the fuck yous that you've been saving up for a while. And the same thing with music. It's like, I don't need your validation to like the things that I like. And I don't care if it's cool. And if you like your thing and it's not my thing, I want to know your thing. There's a few things I really genuinely don't like. I mean, there's a few genuinely like, this is not my thing, but I'm really, really opening to giving everything a chance. And that has been the profound thing from the Japan vinyl tag. Um, and so let me bring this thing full circle, and then I'm going to come to some of these comments. Oh, that little tangent. None of my tangents are like layers of inception. I can barely get my way back out of them. And I think this is a perfect example one. But somehow this started out as like about loyalty, and I heard Trey Anastasio, frontman for one of my favorite bands, Fish, mention MJ Lenderman and an album that he collaborated with Katie Crutchfield of Waxahachie, and that was a recent score. That was the long way of saying that was a recent score. That was one record that's kind of like in heavy rotation, and the other one, hold on. Let me see here. Oh no. I have it out. Blast. I have not new arrivals, but currently listening, and they're all mixed up, and then you have to put them all back. I've got, dang it, the record's in there. Andy Schauf. Andy Schauf, great artist. I'm big fan of Andy Schauf. Okay, let me say hi to some of you guys. So Paul was here. Paul, if you're still around, thanks for being here. Gary, sorry to not ever to get your comment. I was talking about this notion of a symposium of vinyl community people, all with panels and curated groups and topics, and curating a conference on vinyl community affairs and music affairs. If you could get that to gain traction, maybe you could have labels or artists to release special albums for said conference. Wow, that's an idea. Great idea, Gary. That's a really cool idea. Yeah. Just imagining how it would be. I mean, I have to tell you, I have a book that's waiting to be written. I have a book of my own works just waiting to be written. I just need to take a year off to do it. I don't even need to take a year off. I just need like 6 months probably. I could pay somebody to do it, and they could do a better job than I could do it, and faster, but I just need the money to do it. And I don't know if it would be like a lost leader or whatever, but I want to I'm thinking about the audio version of the book, and what that might look like, and like what format that might look like without giving the whole thing away. And yeah, it would be interesting. Yeah, I don't want to say it, but I was remembering the thing. I'll just give a few little like hints here. But like, I grew up on when you hear the chime, turn the page. I grew up on these records, and they were my first records. So I kind of like, where did they go? Right? Wouldn't that be fun to have some of those around? And like, it's a great idea, Gary. If you could get that to gain traction, this idea of like once a year, there's the music conference. I'm sure it already exists. It probably already exists, but specifically for us YouTube yahoos, get artists to really to have special albums to coincide with the conference, the Vinyl Community Conference, the VCC. The annual 2025 VCC. I don't know if that's what you call it. It's got to come up with something better than that. But yeah, with like not only with albums, but with like spoken word, maybe, recordings of the panels. And like, you can go like, maybe you don't need to like buy it on wax, but I'd go buy some. What's that guy's name? Alan Watts, man. I don't have any. I don't know. Do I have any I have comedy records, but spoken like a proper cool. Yeah, Alan Watts on vinyl. That would be sick. Very cool. Let's see. I think you would enjoy Dave Matthews. I'm a fan for sure. Okay, yeah, man. I don't know. People find my favorite band insufferable, and which I've just been living with for a really long time, and I've come to terms with it. And Dave Matthews is a buddy of Trey Anastasio's. There was John Popper of Blues Traveler, I think, was the sort of Perry Farrell of Lollapalooza. He was to Horde tour which was something that happened in the 90s. He was to Horde Tour what Perry Farrell was to Lollapalooza. He was just this visionary who, I think, and Horde was HORD, Horizons of Rock Developing Everywhere. It was a little silly, but it was like jam bands before it was called jam bands. And it was, I think the sort of the biggest act that was ever on a Horde stage, I think, was the Almonds. The Almonds were part of, they were sort of the godfathers of this scene, and Fish was part of it, and Blues Traveler, and we were talking about? Dave Matthews and Samples, and who else? I think the Black Crows maybe were on it. Who else was on Horde? Like Mo and Spin Doctors, I think. I'm spacing who was on it. It was a long time ago. I went and saw a couple shows. It was super fun. But it was early on in those days when Trey and Dave somehow got palled up, and then Dave and Trey went to Africa together. And I think they went, like, Dave took Trey around, I think not only South Africa, but I think they went up to like the, what do they call it? Like the, West African Horn. Is the Horn this one, or is it I forget how it goes, but they went to, what I'm remembering is I'm remembering this like sort of dark port where like millions of slaves passed through, and it was like I went to Hiroshima on my first trip to Japan. I wanted to get my head around it. I had the option to go to anywhere I wanted, but I was like, I got to go figure this out. How is it that these people buy Coca-Cola and Levi's jeans and they got bombed? I was like, I want to get my head around it. I want to see it. So Trey goes to, gets taken around Africa with Dave, and he also talks about this like very informative concert of King Sunny Ade when he was really young, and so he's really been inspired by the sounds, by the at least the popular sounds that came out of Africa to the west. And so I think Dave Matthews, even though I think he's originally from New York and moved to South Africa when he was a young lad, I mean he's a South African contingent. I mean I like him for that reason alone. There's not so many voices or sounds coming out of that part of the world that are making its way over here. And even if he's a watered down version of something, like I don't see it. I heard that he had some I heard this story of this Chicago River thing. He dumped a tour bus something or other, and some people hate him for that. Anyway, Dave Matthews, he seems all right. I'm gonna give him at some point I'm gonna do the Dave-a-thon. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna go through all the albums. I'm gonna do it with Pearl Jam too, who I don't have a grip on really. I only know 10, but I'm gonna have the Dave-a-thon where I'm gonna go learn them all someday. Scott's in the house. DJ Final Vertigo, what's up, dude? Happy birthday, Prince Nelson. Prince Nelson. Who's Prince Nelson? I'm showing my colors here. Prince Nelson. You're like, what? How do you not know Prince Nelson? He's a legend. American singer song. Oh, Prince. Prince's last name is Nelson. I did not know that. Okay. All right. Very cool. June 7th. All right. It's June 8th here in Tokyo. Prince Nelson. I never knew that was his last name. I knew that his real name was Prince. That's pretty cool. Man, Prince, dude. What a fucking legend. Man, they broke the mold with him. God, he's just one of the coolest, right? Up like Bowie, like Prince and Bowie, right? You can't get any cooler, right? You really, really cannot. That performance at the Super Bowl. There's a scene, there's a like a little mini doc about that. And it's like, they've got a number set up. He's going to come out. He's got these like high, he was famously short, and he's got these like really heavy, like high boots on, so that he can be as tall as the pretty girls that he got to be with. And he's got all these super babes and all this giant Super Bowl, gajillion eyes. How many? 300 million people watching this thing or whatever. And the production manager like sees the storm is coming, right? The clouds are coming. It's supposed to torrential downpour, and they're getting real nervous about the halftime show. And sure enough, it starts to sprinkle. Then it starts to dump. Then it's just torrential. and like they're calling Prince, and then the guy's like, "What do you think, Prince?" And he's like, "It's raining really hard out there." And Prince is like, "Can you make it rain harder?" And then he comes out stage and he just fucking shreds. It's so badass. It's so cool. It's like one of the coolest moments ever in rock and roll. Is just Prince's performance at the Super Bowl. He's got that like Aunt Jemima, like I don't know. It's forgive the the un-PC thing, but he's got that like, what is that thing called? It's like really cute and funny, and it's like he's just rocking it, owning it completely, and it's just so cool. This kind of do-rag, backwards do-rag kind of thing. So fun. And he looks great, and he's got his purple, Prince, the artist formerly. He's got the Prince guitar, the big crazy one, and he's just. And the performance at where was it? The While My Guitar Gently Weeps, with Tom Petty and Jeff Lynne and Danny Harrison. Like, they don't know where the guitar's gone, and like. There's that one where he does Cream on stage. Cream, what does he say? I don't know what the lyric is, but he's like doing a comedy show. He's like up there doing a comedy show. He stops and he's like, he's getting the audience to do a little callback, a little sing along and callback, and he's like, Cream, and then the audience is like, Cream, and he's like, I didn't come here to just hear it. Cream. Don't you know my songs, or do you not know my songs? Or something like this. Really fun. Happy birthday, Prince. Happy birthday, Prince Nelson. I did not know that. Mad respect for Prince. I grew up on Prince. It was kind of like Prince and I was an 80s, like I wish I'd been a little bit older, because Prince was a little bit like, because Michael Jackson was so huge for a 10-year-old. And Prince, they pitted him against him. He was the bad guy, Michael Jackson was the good guy, Kind of. That was like what an 11-year-old thought about Prince. Kind of. It's like, do we love Prince? But we did. But we just, Michael Jackson was such a huge thing. And there was a thing. There's stories about it. Like they were put on the same bill, and like Prince wouldn't play before Michael Jackson. Something like this. I remember these stories. Happy birthday, Prince. Man, he should still be with us. He should still be with us. He died when he was 57, man. What a drag. 2016. I heard they just sold Paisley Park, or it's getting ready to be like liquidated. Man, what a loss. Oh, I also heard they're going to like release a gajillion records of his. Or a bunch of like recordings. I heard. That's really cool. Hey, Brian, enjoying your channel from Newcastle, UK. Nice, dude. Newcastle, UK. Okay, this is gratuitous, but my third or fourth Dead show, Grateful Dead, I went to Atlanta to see them at was this that? Yeah, I think this was this one. Yeah, at the Omni, and there was the campground was at Stone Mountain, where the Olympics were, this kind of like park, this big state park. And it was crazy. I was like 17 years old. It was mind-blowing crazy. I couldn't believe it. It was the craziest, most fun, silly thing I've ever been to. And downtown Atlanta at the Omni, which I think is no longer there, it was like culture shock, truly culture shock. Like it was so fun. And so we go to the shows, little fun, maybe Atlanta in like 1994 or whenever it was a little seedy. I'm not sure. We didn't feel like we were in danger, but it was just like, it was downtown and like steam coming out of the sewers, and it was like dark, and we were like in a foreign world. It was awesome. And then we go to this campground, and a lot of stories that come out of this epic journey that we had. So many, but one of them was like, some guy was like, I think we had like a case of like Bud Light or something, Coors cans, beer, and my friends, and this other head was like, you can't fucking be drinking Coors Light on Dead tour, and we were like, oh, we don't know, he's like, you gotta get some Newcastle brown ales, Nuki, I think you get like Nuki brown ales or something, he called them maybe. and or some Sam Smiths or some. He basically taught us about second, third tier, basically brown beer. It wasn't necessarily craft beer or what we know as craft beer now, but it was like stouts, which I don't know if I'd ever had before, even though I don't think Newcastle was technically a stout. But I remember the first sip I had of a Newcastle beer, I was like, maybe you guys think it's shit, but I thought, oh my God, this is like liquid chocolate. This is the most delicious thing I've ever had in my life. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I drank it a lot. When you could get your hands on it. It was kind of rare. You had to like go to Oklahoma's got some backwards liquor laws. I think it's changed, but you can't buy beer on Sundays. You can't buy alcohol on Sundays. The liquor stores are closed on Sundays. You can only buy 3.2% out beer like at the supermarket and 6% at the liquor store, but they can't sell cold liquor at can't sell cold beer at the liquor store because they want you to like take it home and refrigerate, like tons of weird laws. And the liquor stores were sometimes easier to get like a fake ID through, and sometimes they were harder. And I don't remember what we did, but we had to like, we had to like go out where our welcome at all the liquor stores and, stay out back and like, will you buy us some Newcastle beer or whatever? And, but great. When I think of Newcastle, this is what I think of. I hope that's not an insult to Newcastle, but I loved your beer. I do love your beer. It's in the same category as like a Guinness to me. I will also add that like I stopped drinking alcohol. Maybe I've lost count, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. Just graduated, at least temporarily. I just have too much going on, and I have a motorcycle and I have a family and I have and it doesn't like remove stress from my life. It adds to it. So it was a real easy exit. And I didn't have to really go through like a lot. I don't really consider myself like once an alcoholic. Oh, it's not like that. But I just like one day I was like, oh, this is not good for me. And I think maybe I'm gonna, oh yeah, maybe that's the move. And I got it from my dad. My dad's was like, didn't drink for years and years. And then he, I don't remember him drinking. I've mentioned this before, but like I remember when the first time I ever tasted a beer, he was mowing the lawn, drinking like a Corona with like a lime in it, and I was probably 6 years old, and I came up and the yellow Corona bottle looked so delicious, and I remember very vividly like wanting to have a sip of it. He's like, here, have a sip of it. And I took a sip of it and I was like, blah, oh God, it was the worst thing I'd ever had in my life. And but then I just like, it dawned on me one day, like, oh Dad, like why don't everybody's, or and he just was like, oh yeah, I haven't, don't drink anymore really. And he never was like, I don't drink anymore. It was just like, yeah, not today. But like that not today went on for 30 years or something. And then when my little sister got married, my dad was drinking a glass of wine at the wedding. My little baby sister, I've got 2 sisters and 2 brothers. And my little baby sister was the last one to kind of get married, and she was getting married, and my dad was having a glass of wine at the party. Didn't really think much of it, but then I'm like, Dad, you're drinking a glass of wine. And he's like, yeah, all my kids are married. I'm done. I did it. I was like, yes, nice, Dad, good job. And that's going to be my play. Oh my God, there's a lot of comments here. Okay. That's going to be my play. So I'm on a long-term break from booze, but maybe I'll enjoy I do love a good, and this is why I mentioned this, is because I went to Czech Republic a couple years ago, and I went deep into like Bavaria, or like, Bohemia, and they were like, what do you mean you've come to the land of the Pilsner beer? What do you mean you don't drink? And I was like, sorry. And they were like, well, you better drink this. This is the last excuse for a beer that we have in our country that doesn't have alcohol in it. You better drink. I was like, hey, no problem. I had the most delicious, epically delicious non-alcoholic beer in Czech Republic. And I have been on the search for it ever since. And it tastes a little bit like Newcastle and looks a little bit like Newcastle. Thanks for being here, Richard, and thanks for the comment. And I hope you continue enjoying the channel. I'm just riffing on, what I do. So I hope I can follow you back too. I dig Wakahachi. Of course you do. you're so knowledgeable about this kind of world of music, which doesn't somehow, Scott, your interest in music is really, I feel like you have a curious palette of music that you're interested in. I'm very interested in the kind of music that you like. I think if I went through your record collection, I would know some things. I'd be like, I know this like back and forth, and I've never heard of this. What am I trying to say? It's like, I don't know. I could learn a lot from your music collection, I'm sure. And I would probably enjoy. There's probably a whole lot that I would be like, oh, do I like? I know what I can't say what I'm trying to say, but I know what I know what I'm trying to say. I'm gonna keep going here. I'm trying to discover Japanese music, especially jazz. And that was after I read a book about it called Blue Nippon. Okay, cool. Yeah, man. I mean, Japanese jazz is like, they take everything so seriously. And I mean, I don't the Japanese are no different than anywhere. It's no different than anywhere else, I want to say. I mean, people are people, right? But there isn't, I feel like there isn't a notion of like poser, like the notion of like poser, somebody who's not like, not has the look but can't, walk the walk or whatever, has the look but can't strut the strut. Like that there isn't that notion here. If you want to become like a let's say, the one that always comes to mind is like the gator. Do you know what a gator is? Like a I don't know where, like a gator, like a hiker would wear like a gaiter, something that like covers the half of their boot and like up to their ankle or maybe up their shin, and will protect their lower legs from like brush and thorns and things like this. A gaiter, right? It's a Colorado kind of, I mean, I'm sure they go back thousands of years, but it's kind of a superfluous equipment that you really need for hiking. Do you really? Maybe you do. If you're hiking in brush, you do. But if you're hiking on maintained paved trails, that are virtually concrete, that you can basically walk in flip-flops on, you don't need gaiters, right? But if you show up at the trailhead in Japan with a pair of gaiters and a walking stick and a compass, people are like, nice, well done, you're more serious than me, respect. That's that's a thing. And like a skateboard, the board poser, of course, is like probably comes from surfing or skate culture, where it's like you've got the surf, yeah, you've got the gear, you've got the duds, you've got the swagger, you just don't have the skill, right? They don't, you don't get made fun of for that in Japan. You get saluted for it. So I'm trying to illustrate that that's the way that I feel like so many subculture worlds are like that. You don't have to be like a virtuoso, or there's not a lot of snobbery about these kinds of things, and it maybe allows people to have a lot more ambition and uh yeah, something about that. I'm not sure I'm explaining it well, but I feel there's some of this in music, I feel like. And I think the music guys, there's like a freedom to go further and to maybe not follow tenets of what some other world might consider cool or not cool. And and maybe that is conducive of a really vibrant, healthy music making space, which maybe Japanese jazz is, maybe that applies to Japanese jazz. I know that I don't really know Japanese jazz. I don't know jazz really. I have 50 jazz records that and I liked, and I mean, I'm just was right now I'm like listening to uh, I mean, I have some nice jazz records. This is a Ron Carter record that I've been really enjoying for the last couple of days. And I mean, I have jazz and I love jazz, and actually I I my son came home the other day while this was on, and he was like, nice music, Dad. And I was like, ooh, really? Okay, I like that. So it was cool to hear him kind of connect with that. But the the I know like the jazz singers and but I don't really know the players. I don't really know the trumpet players and the saxophonists and the guitarists. I know if you mention their names, I would kind of know a couple of them, but I don't really know them back and forth. And I can't really say that for like American jazz artists. You know, you know, does Eric Dolphy play the sax? Does he play the clarinet? I'm like, it's that kind of thing. And I know you guys are out there who are like, no, this is this saxophonist and this is this saxophonist, and you guys can hear, it couldn't be more further worlds apart. I don't hear it like yet, but I would like to. I would very much like to. Um, yeah, and actually, come to think of it, I did an interesting. Yeah, I did do. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'll drop it in the comments if I can pull it up. I had a friend who came to Japan who was from Argentina, and he said, "Oh, I'm coming to Argentina." I said, "Oh my God, there's an Argentinian record I really, really, really want." This kind of like classic rock band from the 70s called Ciru Geron, Geran, but they Geron, Ciru Geron, so cool, almost like a Beatlesy kind of Buffalo Springfield rock and roll band. And I'd never seen a copy of it in Japan, and I was like, I want to get this record. And he brought over a couple of records for me, and he was like, you gotta, before you go listen to this record, you need to listen to this and this. And he gave me a handful of records, and he also said, like, I want to trade you. I don't want you to pay me for the records. I want to trade you for some records. So I want you to give me some. I want to trade for some Japanese jazz records. You tell me what you want, or you share with me what you want to share with me, and I'll gladly accept anything. And so I went to the VC, the Jazz Bums, I think it was, maybe. And I was like, yo, I got this guy coming to Japan. He's asking about, they were talking about Japanese jazz artists. And they were saying like, let's see. Oh God, maybe I don't have it. I was sure I made it. Okay, wait, maybe this is it. Oh no, yeah, this is it. Okay, it's not, let me, give me a second. Japanese jazz artists. Okay, let me share this. So I asked these guys, hey, can you recommend me some Japanese jazz artists? And I got like 50 recommendations from the Jazz Bums about great jazz records. Not all Japanese artists, some of them like standard records that you probably already know with Japanese players on them. And I've listened to a bunch of them, and I don't know them all. The records that I ended up buying for him were a Ryo Fukui record. That record, Scenery, the red one. I found a decent copy of it. It just got re-released, very expensive, but I managed to find a reasonable one. Piano player, and also I gave him a record, a Yuming Arai record, who the one that has, it's called what's it called, Missing or Missling or something, and she's playing a piano. The guy was a piano player, and she's playing a piano. She does a lot of the songs for the Ghibli things, and so it was something a little bit mainstream and something a little bit underground. Let me share it with you guys if you know. Sorry, Gary, if you're still curious. Copy link private only to me. Hold on. Sharing. Here we go. Just a second. Anyone with link can do the viewer. Okay. Copy link. Let me throw it in here. If you want some Japanese jazz artists, here's a list of about 50 artists that might be worth checking out. Cool. I'm happy I got to share that. Okay. BK, Breakfast King of Loyola is here. I've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. God, just like nonstop. Big Head Tyler and the Monsters was at Horde. Prince, he's saying, God damn, don't you know Prince Nelson's birthday? Yes, I know Prince. Sorry, Scott. Dave Matthews tour bus dumps to 800 pounds. Yes, okay, we heard about this. This is one of the reasons that they're yeah. I'm not gonna excuse them, but have I done some pretty stupid shit? 800 pounds, come on, 800 pounds. 800 pounds? Really? That's a lot of waste. That's a lot of shit. That's a lot of shit. 800 pounds. That's a lot. Um, yeah, on top of a sightseeing boat. I mean, okay, they were apparently if they were driving around on a tour bus. I'm not going to excuse a sort of high school antic. I want to know if that story. What is the story on that story? Because I heard it. I heard about it today. Actually, I heard that there were people jumping off the boat. Can you imagine like shit falling on your head, 800 pounds of it, and like you're like, ah! It's just like human excrement. You like jump, you're like the written jump into the, ugh, did that really happen? Did that really happen? Do rag, okay, is the correct thing. Sorry if I said yeah, I think unfortunately, yeah, we don't need to go there, but I saw, yeah, are they, yeah, there's this hilarious Dave, sort of off-color Dave Chappelle sketch where like they're canceling Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben and not and somebody else is like, I forget what the skit is, but it's yeah, Aunt Jemima. I don't know. I have no idea. But I just know that thing where they tied it around and it's like you see it kind of like in yeah, you see it in these sort of, probably off-color tropes that I probably grew up with and that I don't realize we shouldn't be saying them anymore. Anyway, wait, I missed one there. Also the Get Off performance at AMAs. Oh, I don't know if I know that one. I gotta go see that one. Okay. Yeah, we all love Prince and Bowie. Sorry, I'm zipping through here. I'm like a gajillion miles behind. Hang on, MJ was bad. You know it. Man, back to Michael Jackson and Prince being the good guy. Cat Williams is another one who's kind of emerging as a virtuous guy, even though he maybe was thought once to be, a bad actor or something. Maybe I'm not sure exactly what was thought about Cat Williams, but he's being a little bit vindicated because he didn't kiss the ring that seems a lot of other people did. But Michael Jackson, goddamn, I grew up on Michael Jackson. I nobody was more important to me. Nobody was more important to any kid in suburbia where I was than Michael Jackson. He was ubiquitous. He stole every bit of airwaves from everybody else. We Are the World. I was like, what year was that? 86. I was born in 76. I was 10 years old. I was 11 years old. I think we got it on like a flexi disc in the newspaper. I think like every single home in America had a copy of We Are the World, something like this. And Michael Jackson wouldn't sing with the rest of the chorus. He had to be like in his own private place, which was maybe my first time. I was like, that's not very, and then I learned about Harry Belafonte and I was just like, okay, but Michael Jackson's above it. Anyway, I started questioning my affection for Michael Jackson, and then I saw that fucking movie. And I was like, I never can listen to Michael Jackson again. Nope, can't go there again. And then I met a friend who was like, I love Michael Jackson. I'm like, Michael Jackson, my number one. I'm like, don't you know that Michael Jackson was was bad? Don't you know it? And she was like, no, that's all rumors. And I'm like, I don't think so. And she's like, no, it is. I'm like, do you see the document? I'm like, maybe I don't want to ruin this. Like, and then it was the first time I'd kind of backtracked my thinking that like, maybe you do separate the art from the artist. I thought you really can't, but that was the first time I was like, not sure. I mean, like, why? Not sure. Jury's out. But Fat, Rick Derringer just died recently, and he was on. He did the video on Fat or did something on Fat, and I just went and rewatched Fat. God, man, what a genius! Weird Al, what a genius! And of all his videos, that one still remains just like, there was a bunch of good ones, but then I don't think any of them top Fat. That was just scene for scene. They use the same subway stations. It's freaking hilarious. Okay, I'm getting almost caught up here. And they used this like bodysuit, and it blew up his like jowls, and like it was so funny. And the suit, and like at the beginning of the thing where it's like, you ain't fat, I'm fat, you ain't fat. And he's like, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. That's so funny. Oh God, what a genius. Okay, I fell in love with develop. Oh, I almost want to say that like the beer, Duvel beer. I don't know about it. Sounds like a Belgian beer. Maybe it's Czech. I don't know, but like that's one that I feel like it. I don't know. I've had it before. I think I'm chasing that taste, exactly that taste. That's why I call myself Vertigo all over the place. I am. Okay, well, don't have too many. Yeah, Gary, thanks for being here. There are articles of the tour bus incident. Yeah, and imagine being on that boat. Yeah, I know there's articles about things, but that doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean anything. There's articles about things. I mean, not to dismiss it or anything, or to say that you're not. But I just like, what's the truth? What is the real truth of that story? I mean, is there even really a truth? I mean, where did the 800 pounds? Who measured the 800 pounds? Did they go down and dig up? 800. Did they go collect the 800 pounds? Was there a forensic evidence on the bus that tells you exactly how much was in the septic tank? Before you dump it. I don't know. I just like, where does that number come from? What does he say about it too? I wonder. Have you ever done an episode in Record Boy in Koenji? No, I haven't, Dallas. I would like to. Koenji, let's get to the bottom of this, Breakfast King of the Loyal. How can we figure this out? I'm actually curious to get to the bottom of this story. Did this incident really happen? I saw Nick Kroll do something about it like a year ago, where he was like, this is the bridge where Dave Matthews dumped his shit onto the boat passing under the bridge. And I was like, I thought it was a gag. I didn't know what it was. And then I heard it mentioned on Todd's stream the other day. I was like, oh, was that real? And then I was like, oh, because I'd heard that once before. And now you're talking about it. And we're talking about Dave Matthews. I want to know the real story. Let's figure this out. Let's get to the bottom. Some investigative journalism. Let's really figure out what happened. Because really, like, how do they know it was 800 pounds of shit? I mean, even if that's just the number you were throwing out. I mean, like, how do they know what happened? I mean, was there, I'm not going to say it didn't happen, but it's just a little bit of it's a little bit of a story. Let's keep going here. Dallas asks, have you ever done an episode in Record Boy Koenji? So Koenji, I'm going to say that there's like, there's like five kind of hip neighborhoods in Tokyo. I mean, there's levels of kind of hipness, but there's kind of like 5 hipster kind of ish neighborhoods. One of them is, I'm going to like exclude Shibuya, because Shibuya is like, it's like a mega stop. Shibuya is like this huge sort of, just like all encompassing thing that's onto itself. But then there's these like satellite little hipster places. One of them is Shimokitazawa, which is a little like teenagery. It's kind of like, it was a place where kids who were living out in the western suburbs of Tokyo, where I live, where they go on their way home from going to school in Shibuya or around there. So it's like a halfway point, and it's like kind of a little teeny bopper town. And it was one of the reasons I moved to Japan. The first time I saw Shimokitazawa, the first time I walked around and found this like little village there, I was like, this is cool. I want to live here. And I fell in love with Shimokitazawa. I'm a diehard Shimokita is my home turf. Shimokita is 3 or 4 stops down the road. I'm a 5-minute motorcycle ride to there and a 10-minute bicycle ride. And I lamented moving 4 stations from, down the line or whatever, but it's much better to be far. And it's much more, it's more spacious. It's just as unaffordable, but it's slightly more spacious here. So, and I'm like, I thought it'd be a million miles away, but what it actually does is it connects me to another interesting neighborhood on the other side of the Inokashira Line, the terminus of Shibuya. The Shibuya, it goes from Shibuya to Kichijoji. Maybe you've heard of Kichijoji. And morning. And Kichijoji is another little bohemian outpost that's known to be kind of a cool little place, a little bit more satellite-y. It's kind of far away. Then you have like Nakameguro, and Nakameguro is like the cool kids. It's the very cool kids. It's the little fashion boutiques, and I'm gonna say it's kind of the Shimokitazawa of the west, of the southern western neighborhoods. It's a little bit silly to say, but it's a little bit more, I don't want to say posh. It's not more posh, but it's less, it's a little bit more like, a little bit more upscale, or it's just a little bit cooler and a little bit snobbier, slightly. I don't want to say anybody who's like, but it's just like, it's a little bit in the know and a little bit less friendly, a little bit less. Shimoki is always like, it's a real villagey, and it's real kind of like a little louder, a little bit exciting. And, it's like drinking on the street, people walking around. Life is a little bit more on the street. Nakameguro is a little bit like special, quiet places and secret, not secret, but just, like private, a little bit, like less obnoxious maybe. And and then Kichijoji is really cool. And then there's a couple others. East side of town has its own couple of pockets, and there's like Aoyama, and there's other interesting places, but Koenji is definitely on the map of hip places to be. And what is cool about Koenji, or I would say like what kind of makes Koenji interesting, is that Koenji's got like a Hantai kind of like, they're the demo. That's where people are making zine. It's a little punkier. That's kind of what it is. It's a little bit less hippie, a little bit more punky. And there's like, you'll see free Tibet and free Palestine and free this and free that. And people are a little not wound up, but they're more rebel-y, right? And the record shops kind of have a little bit of that flair. You'll see like a punk record shop, and the best punk record shop in Tokyo, I think it's Bass, is in Koenji. And my friend Sako, or my acquaintance Sako, has a really cool record shop called Uptown Records, and it's kind of like, dark wave and really underground and cool. And he makes zines, and you can buy. He's got like a comic making workshop that he does, and it's cool. It's cool, but it's a little bit not intimidating, but it's cool in a different kind of way. And it's off the thing that makes Koenji, it's like not as accessible to me, because just where I live, the only way that I can get there is to either go this way and then back. It's right here, but to get there, I either have to it's not a place I go through ever. And I have never gone through Koenji. It's always a place where I've had to go this way and get to it, or this way and get to it, or it's just I'm always going this way and I'm never going to Koenji. So I know Koenji, and it's a little bit of I wouldn't say like I'm embarrassed that I don't know it, but it's like a big blind spot that I wish wasn't such a blind spot. But I have a feeling every time I go to Koenji, anytime I go to some cool place, I'm like, Koenji's awesome. Why am I like not coming here more often? And but I would say it has like more music credentials. I'm just guessing here, but it has like more music credentials than anywhere else. There's like Shimokita and Shibuya and Shinjuku have a lot of like, live houses and things, but I feel like Koenji has like a lot of everywhere, are rehearsal spaces and little bars and cafes where they have little stages, and everybody knows about music in the same way that people here kind of know about music. And I wouldn't say there's like one-upsmanship, but it's like, if you can't hang, then it's like you got to be able to have a few aces up your sleeve to be able to hang in Koenji. And whenever I go there, I'm a little bit like, I don't know Koenji at all. And they're like, why are you here? This is our village. I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of a Shimokita guy. And they're like, oh no, the hippies have invaded us. It's kind of that kind of thing. I should go there. Record Boy. I think I know there's like 5 record stores in Koenji. I've only been to like 1 or 2 of them. there's just too many to know. There's just entirely too many to know. And when I go to these record shops, I don't ever like just show up and I'm not gonna say that's entirely true, but I don't tend to just show up and be like, "Hey, can I make a video here?" I tend to like go there, buy a record, go there another time, buy a record, then go there like a third time and buy a record and be like, "Hey, I'm that guy who's been here 3 or 4 times. Maybe when now I'm following you. I sent you that message about the thing, and yeah, I would love to come." And then it's like that's kind of what I want to do with. It's not always like that, but that's what I want to do. I want to be that kind of connection to the people. But I think what ends up happening is that you maybe miss the opportunity. I will tell you, um, there's like 3 or 4 or 5 voices who are like broadcasting record music loving culture from Tokyo out into the world. Some of them are like Japanese only voices, and some of them are like um, English voices. But and some of them are actually like bilingual. And one of them was like a kind of a um, acquaintance of mine, and not really that close of an acquaintance, but I had been to their record shop many times, and I was friendly with them, and I'd photographed them for my projects, and they knew me, and it was like a nice little. It wasn't like anything. Wasn't like a deep relationship, but I bought heaps of records there, and I'd had a couple of events there, and when I proposed to them about making a little video about it. Sorry, there's a mosquito here. Um, they were like they ended up like shortly thereafter. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I I found them. I found them doing something very similar to what I was doing, like very, very similar. And I think that they were like, "Oh, this is an interesting play, and it's a free world, and we should take our own stab at this. And rather than like invite this guy in to come do this for us, we should not only do it for ourselves, but we should do what this guy's doing." And at first, I was like, "Oh man, how uncool is that?" And then I was like, "Actually, it's great." But what it but what I was getting at is that they seem to be quite intent on like um creating a directory of record culture here, to have the definitive directory of what's happening in Tokyo, which is I'm actually happy for them. I'm happy for me too, for them to be making this because it actually has value to me on a lot of different levels. But it's not like it never was like a race to do this whatsoever, but it just reconfirmed that what I want to do is a little bit something different. I want to like forge connections with people, and I'm here for the long game. I'm not here to just like go around the shops once and go buy go to every single one. I'm here to like get to know the ones that I can get to know and tell the stories that I can try to tell. And it's not about covering as much ground as I possibly can. Having said that, I do want to cover a lot of ground, and I do hope to be doing this for quite a while. And I do hope that I can visit as many stores as possible over the coming years. But I have something in the works. I have something new and exciting in the works that I don't think is going to be so easily replicatable. And I'm very excited about it. I don't know if I'm pretty excited about it. And I'm just like, I can't say it. I can't talk about it yet, but it's going to be fun. Okay. Not sure this can hold 800 pounds of shit. I don't think so either, which is why, yeah, did we get to the bottom of this? Breakfast King, come on, I've seen you on screen. You're a more critical thinker than me. Let's just see what happens. Dave, let's see if we can get like a reliable source. Dave, is it David? Dave Matthews bus incident. Okay. Wikipedia. Okay, there's a wiki page. So shall we trust wiki? Look at this. I stand corrected. Okay, hold on. Here we go. On August 8th, 2004. So that puts David about like 20. What would he have been? I would have been in 2004. I was 28. So he would have been like, I'm guessing 38. He's probably 10 years older than me. That's bad behavior at 28. Poopgate. Says Breakfast King of Low. Hold on, let me guess. I'm gonna read this, and it does say 800 pounds, so I stand corrected. Breakfast King of Loyola is correct. Hold on, let's hear. Thanks for the feedback. I'm going to spend 3 days. Oh wait, shoot. I'm going to spend 3 days in Koenji in November. And punk crawl a bit. Yeah, man, you'll have a great time. You'll love it, man. It's a paradise for punks. I'm kind of a fair weather punk. I definitely I'm a card carrying punk, but I'm also a card carrying hippie. So that's where I don't have really an allegiance, 1,000% allegiance to either of them. So I'm right there, which is why I have my punk friends and why I have my hippie friends. Google oral history of poop. Okay, Poopgate. Okay. Let's read this. Okay, all right. Here you okay. You want me? I don't want to steal Breakfast King of Layla's Thunder. What's up, Grateful Dogs? Nice to have you here. We'll be here next week, by the way, with another edition of Ridiculous, my ongoing podcast with my fish-loving homie Andrea Rosen, Miss Rosen, the English teacher from Boulder, which is where this kind of conversation started. She's on the Colorado River, or one of the rivers in Colorado, whitewater rafting, and she's unplugging from the internet for a few weeks. So we'll have her back here next week. Okay. Oh, he's writing out the entire thing here. All right. I was going to read it from the wiki page, but let's just read. We'll read together. Hold on. Wool. Who's Wool? Wool pleaded guilty to the original charge filed against him. Who's that? Is that Dave Matthews? Wool? Is that his, like, who's Wool? We got to get to the bottom of that first. I don't know who Wool is. Okay, we'll come back to that. Wool pleaded guilty to the original charges filed against him in January 2009. Okay. He was sentenced to 18 months probation. Okay. And 150 hours of community service. That's good. And the maximum fine, $10,000. Dumping shit into the river. Note to self: don't do it. Don't do it. $10,000 fine. 150 hours of community service is just good for the soul. I don't mind it. That's a lot of hours. I would think. I don't know how many hours. 18 months of probation, fine. Be on your best behavior. 150 hours, that tracks. $10,000 fine. That's rough. Man, that would hurt. That would really hurt. Let's find out who Wall is here. I'm curious, but let me keep reading this. $10,000 fine to be paid to the Friends of Chicago River. Okay, I like that. Okay, as part of the settlement, the Dave Matthews Band agreed to pay $200,000, which went to a fund for the environmental protection and other projects. Okay, that makes me think. Now, I have no clue. We're gonna keep reading here and find out. But that my impression here is that one of Dave's hanger-oners was like, what we should do? We should dump the septic tank on the river, on the boat, and Dave was probably playing a show, like maybe he was in on it. I don't know, but I can't imagine a guy who's got a giant reputation as an international pop star is gonna squander a chance to lose everything, or put himself in the possibility of losing everything he has by a dark and strange and dangerous prank. I could see how, like, one of his lackeys, I think they call him. Does Dave Matthews have lackeys doing something like this? And Dave being like, dude, okay, look, I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. Not only are we going to pay the $10,000 fine, we're going to pay the $200,000 fine. I will make sure this never fucking happens again. I don't know. Let's keep reading. Which went into a fund for the environmental protection of other projects. This is a fun topic. This is a fun topic. Okay. The band also donated $50,000 to the Friends of the Chicago and $50,000 to the Chicago Park District. Okay, dude. The guy was like, that makes it, what? That's 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand. He's paid 300 grand for this. Plus the dude, Wool. We got to find out who Wool is. The Wool is the I'm guessing the punk who did it. Some passengers filed separate personal injury suits, ouch, along with some insurance claims with the tour operators, ouch, seeking compensation for clothing and personal items that were ruined. Fuck yes. I mean, certainly that. I would think that like the dysentery that you suffered for a month or whatever, that the toxic uh the toxic waste that you had to endure. Wool was the bus driver. Okay. All right. Not a lackey, a bus driver. Wow, that's misguided. That's a misguided bus driver. Yeah, what is the story? I'm guessing we're never really going to get to the bottom of it. I mean, hold on, let's see. I like Core Lord Identity too. Okay, what's Core Lord Identity? I don't know about that. We're still on this Dave Matthews thing. Hold on. Let me read the the wiki page. On August 8th, 2004, a bus tour belonging to Dave Matthews Band dumped an estimated 800 pounds. Okay, I take it back. Breakfast King of Loyal. I'm sorry. Sounds absurd. It does say estimated. An estimated 800 pounds. Is that how big the tank is? Maybe, I don't know. But maybe it was full. Maybe it was like the bus driver. Maybe it was like 2 tours worth of poop. Maybe it was like, maybe it hadn't been emptied. Hence, it was going to cost them thousands of dollars to empty it, and made more sense to just dump it in the river. I don't know. Maybe 800 is not obscene. It's definitely obscene, but maybe it's not unrealistic. Of human waste from the bus's Blackwater tank. That's what we call it, not septic tank. Blackwater tank through the Kinsey Street Bridge in Chicago. God, a day that will live in this Dave Matthews Band for infamy. A day that will live in infamy. So, on top of what are the odds of it dumping onto a passenger sightseeing boat? Is that intentional? What's the story there? Sailing in the Chicago River. The incident became popularly known as Dave Matthews Incident Poopgate. Okay, this is all new to me. The members of the Dave Matthews Band were not on or near the bus during the incident. Okay. The band's bus driver, Stephen Wool, initially denied dumping the waste and was supported by the band. Okay, so he was like, I didn't do it. And they were like, all right, he said he didn't do it. We believe him. He's our bus driver. He's been driving our bus for years. Initially denied dumping the waste and was supported by the band. However, he was later found to have been the only person on the bus during the incident. In April 2005, he pleaded guilty to the dumping, and the band fired him without pay. Okay, so let's cut Dave Matthews a little slack. It's not really Dave Matthews who did this. It's Dave Matthews, degenerate bus driver, okay? Let's set the record straight. Can you share this? Can you put this out into the world? Can you say it wasn't actually Dave Matthews? The band wasn't even on the bus. It was you've seen these bus driver guys, Better be careful here. As part of the band's 2005 legal settlement with the state of Illinois, in exchange for the band not admitting guilt to the incident in court, which they shouldn't. I wouldn't admit guilt. I mean, maybe I would, because I'd just be like, whatever, let's just get it over with. But its members agreed to pay $200K to the fine, and which is the equivalent of $320K, they say here in 2024. They also donated $100,000 to 2 groups that protected the river. Okay. That's a lot of scratch. Okay, they booked his rooms at Dave Matthews. Let's just keep going. I mean, how long is this thing? Oh goodness, it's not that long. I'm going to tell Andrea, this is what we read on the ridiculous. We read the Dave Matthews Poopgate incident, which is good. I'll report back to her that this is what we were talking about. Let's keep going. I'm having fun reading this. Dave Matthews had booked rooms at the Peninsula Hotel on 108th East Superior Street for a 2-night show at Alpine Valley Music Theater in East Troy, Wisconsin. The incident occurred between the first and second night of the concert. The band booked 5 buses for its show. Steve Wool drove the bus and the band's violinist Boyd Tinsley. During warm months, the Chicago Architecture Center offers boat tour of the buildings along the Chicago River. The boats have open roof seating. Oh, these poor passengers, where the passengers sit during the tour. Oh, they've got a picture. Oh my God, you got to see this. Okay, hold on. This is funny. This is too much. Oh, my tummy's growling. Look here. They've got the sewer grates that they went through. This is the scene of the crime. That's so funny. Okay, we'll read it together. Let's see. Most of Chicago's bridges feature welded grating, which is used for its strength and anti-slip properties. Welded grating allows rain and snow and other liquids to pass through, removing the need for complicated drainage systems or to salt the bridge during the snow, and assuring it does not ice over in wintry weather. Incident on August 8, 2004, Wool was alone in Tinsley's bus and driving to a downtown hotel when he emptied the bus's blackwater tank as it crossed the metal grate. As it crossed. Okay, so he was doing this as he was driving along as it crossed. Oh, come on. I'll do you guys later, I promise. Passenger boat Chicago's Little Lady was hosting the 1 p.m. Chicago Architecture Foundation tour. I work with architects. It's so funny. The Chicago River. While passing under the bridge, the boat received the full contents of the tank on the seats of its open roof terrace. Oh, roughly 2/3 of the 120 passengers aboard the tour boat were soaked. Fuck, gross. It's so gross. The boat immediately returned to its dock, where all the passengers were issued refunds. Yeah. 5 passengers were taken to Northwestern Medical Hospital for testing. Oh, goodness. According to the Illinois Attorney General, the passengers aboard included people with disabilities, elderly, a pregnant woman, a small child, and an infant. The filing incident. This is hilarious. I shouldn't be laughing. The liquid waste was brownish yellow in color and had a foul, offensive odor. The liquid human waste went into passengers' mouths, hair, and onto their clothing and personal belongings, many which were soaked. Gross. It's like a comedy. Some of the passengers suffered nausea and vomiting as a result of exposure to the human waste. It's like that scene from that movie where like the tilt-a-whirl where they're all like one kid barfs and then the other kid barfs and then like the whole thing turns into this like spraying octopus carnival ride of barf. Problem Child, I think that one was. The boat's deck was swabbed by its crew, and service was resumed for the scheduled 3 p.m. tour. Gross. They should have just okay. Anyway, investigate immediately following the incident. The Chicago Police Department said they were investigating, but did not yet consider it a crime. On August 9th, the Chicago Architecture Foundation released a statement that a witness had recorded license plate information. Which they'd probably done this dozens of times. These bus drivers, they probably have to pay. And it's a way for them to pocket a little coin if they just kind of, dump it on the side of somewhere. It's probably a thing. And all the bus drivers across the nation were like, ooh, can't do that anymore. We've got to be careful. No more dumping. I bet you that's a thing. On August 9th, the Architecture Foundation released a statement that a witness had recorded license plate information which they had turned over to the police as evidence. Wow. If that hadn't happened, maybe they would have never gotten busted. On August 10th, bus driver Jerry Fitzpatrick, who drove for the band, was identified as the owner of the bus's license plate. In a phone interview, Fitzpatrick denied to a Chicago Tribune reporter that he had dumped the waste, asserting that he was parked in front of the band's hotel at the time. A publicist for the Dave Matthews Band issued a statement saying the band's management had determined that every one of its buses was parked at the time of the incident. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. I mean, maybe they really thought that they didn't do it. And I mean, how did the guy get the license plate of the... Well, that kind of doesn't make sense, right? Because it says here, wait, on August 10th, the bus driver, Jerry Fitzpatrick, who drove... let's keep reading. Maybe it'll make sense here. But he says on August 9th, the Chicago Architecture Foundation released a statement that a witness had recorded license plate information, which they had turned over to the police as evidence. But then the license plate goes back to this guy, Jerry Fitzpatrick, who has an alibi. he says, okay, Fitzpatrick, who was in Effingham, Illinois. What a name for a city, Effingham. At the time, instructed Sergeant Paul Gardner of the Effingham Police Department to inspect the bus's septic tank to prove that he could not have emptied it. Gardner reported to the Chicago Tribune over Fitzpatrick's cell phone call that he had inspected the tank and that it was nearly full. Okay, so the plot thickens. State prosecutors worked with a nearby fitness gym, the East Bank Club, to identify the offending bus based on the gym's security videotapes. Okay, there we go. On August 24th, Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan filed a $70,000 lawsuit against Stephen Wool, alleging that he was responsible for the dumping. Wool denied dumping the waste and was supported by the band. On August 25th, God, he must have been panicked. Like, I mean, I don't want to say poor guy, but he must have been like, oh my God. He cost somebody $300,000. You know, that was a $300,000 mistake. I mean, and it's a wiki page now. I mean, I have to admit, it's kind of. Let's hope these poor people are laughing about it. What, 15 years later? Do we keep going on? Okay, legacy. No passenger suffered the long-lasting physical health effects of having waste dumped on them. Good. In 2009 interview with WTMX, Dave Matthews said that he'd apologize for the incident as long as he has to. Okay, that's contrite. Satirical website The Onion, The Onion published an article about the incident in 2018 containing an edited image supposedly depicting it. On August 8th, I want to see that. I got to look that up. On August 8th, 2023, the Riot Fest Historical Study attached a plaque to the Kinsey State Bridge commemorating the 19th anniversary of the incident. Oh my God, it's the kind of stuff. You know, rock and roll needs a little bit of insubordination. It's, against the architectural, come on. It's a prank for the ages, I guess you could say, even though the band weren't involved. Maybe they should be involved. Maybe they should have taken a little bit more ownership of it. On August 7th, 2024, the anticipation of the incident's 20th anniversary had previously unknown passengers and crew from the incident spoke publicly about their experience, including the captain on Chicago's Little Lady, Sonja Lund. Most passengers reported that, though originally disgusted and upset by their experience, they began to find it humorous over time. Good. On August 8th, 2024, a documentary film entitled Crap was announced with the stated goal of finding and recording firsthand witness accounts of the event. The Crappening. Also commemorating the 20th anniversary of the incident, podcaster Justin McElroy produced a mini documentary about the bridge incident for the McElroy family YouTube channel. Oh God, we got to go see this. In the video, Justin takes a tour of the locations in Chicago related to the event and explains the incident and its backstory to his two brothers, Travis McElroy and Griffin McElroy. That's pretty funny. I mean, what was the, Most passengers reported, though originally disgusted and upset by their experience, they began to find it humorous over time. I mean, that's why I'm laughing about it. It's funny. It's pretty funny. Oh my gosh, that was a riot. Oh, I had this comment up the whole time. Sorry, Grateful Dogs. Oh, goodness. Oh, that was funny. Those architectural tours are fantastic when poop isn't raining down from above. I'm sure they are. Chicago's famous, great architecture city. Okay. I could have a little hello hang if anybody wants to. There's 10 of you guys still hanging around. I've been going for 2 hours here. Look at these are like, holy jeans, except they're holy elbows, and they're like so past, they're so past being acceptable for like holy. Look at this. Half the shirt's gone. But I can't seem to bring myself to just trash it. And I can't seem to find a replacement. It's quite a good one. Anybody want to? Here, I'll put it out there. I had some bad luck with this yesterday, but I'll try it again. If anybody wants to come up, turn your camera on. That would be helpful. Nobody gets to come up without a camera. And maybe I don't have anything more to talk about. It could be done, but there it is. if anybody wants to come up. I'll let it go for about 5 minutes. Oh my gosh. What else? Show some records, maybe. I got a box down here. I can show some records. This could be some rather ghetto stuff. I have no idea. This is my overflow box of 45s. This is a box of 45s. There's probably about, I don't know, 50 or maybe 147 inches in there. Maybe not 100, maybe not that many, maybe 50 or 60. And I have another one that's about the same size here. Rolling Stones, Miss You, which I bought this because my dear friend Peter died and he loved the song. And I heard this Nepalese posse plays. Hey, I see Scott's coming. Scott's here. Hey, dude.
Hey, is my sound okay? Or is my sound kind of crunchy? Okay, good.
No, you sound great, dude. So nice to see you, man. It's been a while. How you been?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm great.
I know you're doing okay.
I'm doing good, right? You can feel it. Can you feel it?
Yeah.
I'm always doing pretty okay. Sometimes I'm not.
I've been really tired. I've been really overworked. I can't stay too long, but I just thought I'd come and say hello because I never get to talk to you. So, you know.
Yeah, I was thinking about, it was fun little. Yeah, you've live streamed from some concerts. You've talked about some of your some of the bands that you've played with and the albums and songs that you've covered, and we've shared. I've seen you on stage, and we saw you steal the show in a white suit, and it was Talking Heads, wasn't it? It was
yeah.
It was something off Remain in Light, right? It was This Is Not My Beautiful House.
It was actually from Stop Making Sense movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's really fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have your musical, you have like I feel like what I was trying to say earlier is like you have I think an somewhat interesting like intersection of interest. I don't know how else to put it exactly, but it's like one road is going one way and then another road is going another way. Something like this. Is that right? Do I have that? Is that a way to characterize it?
It's a blessing and a curse because I'm open to a lot of things, but also that makes me vulnerable to spend too much money because there's so much stuff. If you're more parochial in your music, you kind of stick to certain things and it's okay, but I'm all over the place, so it's hard.
Right.
And that's because my family, everybody in my family is into music. I'm the only musician in the family, but everybody in the family is always into music, and every member of my family likes something different. So and I'm the youngest, so I kind of gleaned everything from everybody else.
That's
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
what are some of the things that your family? I mean, like, what are your parents into? What were some of your siblings? I mean, what were a few of the different?
My father was
things?
jazz and classical.
Right.
My eldest brother, his nickname was Champ, and he was into rock and roll and jazz and some soul. My sister was into Motown and all that kind of stuff. She was into pop music, and my brother Wayne was into reggae. Totally into reggae. Right. He was a Bob Marley addict. And he is. And my mother was into country. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, my mother likes show tunes and Sinatra and all that kind of stuff. So
what is it with mothers and show tunes? It's like a lot of our mothers seem to be that's a pretty good question actually. What is it? What is the show tune? Does it appeal to
maybe because they tend to have to mother the children and so they have to share really happy up things with their children. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, right.
It could be that,
So
especially traditional family. Like today is a little different, but like back when our parents were raising us, there was a little bit more tradition in terms of who was doing what. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not like that now. I don't think as much.
So you said your brother Wayne, was it? Who was he's the reggae guy, or who's the rock guy?
He was into Bob Marley, big time. He still is, but yeah.
Who's Bob the other Marley, guy? Who's your older brother?
And my older brother Champ was into like Deep Purple and
Deep Purple.
Led
Okay, this was
Zeppelin and
okay.
Focus. Not so much now. Like as he's gotten older, he's more into jazz now.
Okay.
But when he was younger, he played a lot. He had a lot of those records, and I actually I got them from him. You know, he kind of when he went into the service, he just gave me his rock records.
Wow.
You know, and I
Okay.
was into Focus because of him, and you know, Jay Giles,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. So you know,
So he must have been in high school in say
he's 10 years
74 or
older
something
than
like
me.
that.
Yeah,
Okay. Even
yeah,
earlier, maybe. Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you're lucky to have. I'm him. I'm the oldest of 5 brothers and
Okay.
sisters, but we all have also different musical interests, which is
Hmm.
interesting. But I don't think they have as my yeah, but I didn't have the older brother who I inherited the records from. I don't have that. Remember that scene from High Fidelity where she's like, "Listen
Yeah.
to this, and you'll be saved," or whatever she says. You know, like put a candle on and close your eyes, and everything will go away. And he's like, ah,
Yeah.
"Sweet
Yeah.
emotion," I think is the tune. I forget what it is, but like, and yeah, that's lucky. And I think I learned about like Zeppelin from a friend's older brother. It was like
Uh-huh.
it had to filter down through older. What is it with older brothers and Zeppelin, right? It's just like
I know. I know.
right. But so then and then you said your sister's into Motown.
She was
She's
she was
clearly not
totally
old
into
enough to be
Marvin
like
Gaye. You know,
okay.
she was swooned. Well, she was also into the Beatles too, because my sister she was into the pop thing. Because my
Okay.
sister took me quick story. My sister took me to the movies. She used to have to babysit me a lot, so because of that, she'd have to drag me to the movies, and she hated that. But you know, she took her little brother. I was like maybe 8, I don't know, 7, I don't know. And it was I think it was A Hard Day's Night or something like that. The movie was out, and my sister took me to the movies to see this movie. I had no idea. I
Wow.
didn't know anything about the Beatles. And I'm sitting there eating popcorn or whatever, and the movie starts, and all the girls in the theater start screaming and crying and carrying on. And so I think something's going wrong. So I panicked and I start crying
Oh my gosh. Right. I can
because I thought
imagine.
something bad was happening.
I
It's just
can
that they
imagine.
were screaming because they saw Paul and John on the screen. You know what I mean? And I'll
Wow.
never forget that. I'll never forget like my sister going nuts over the Beatles like that, like screaming and carrying on in a movie, you know? Crazy.
Right. Right.
Crazy
That
teenagers, you
reminds me
know.
of 2 things. First of all, did you see my conversation with Mazzy yesterday? We talked about his book for like an hour. It was really
No, I
fun.
gotta check that out. I
Yeah,
gotta check that
I
out.
scored a copy of his book and we kind of went through it. He popped up and we went like page by page
Really? Oh, I
through
gotta
his
see
book.
that because I picked up a copy myself. Yeah.
Oh, did you? There's gonna
Yeah,
be
I
like
have a
this wave
copy.
of people who recently,
And it's
but he
and I gotta get him to sign it because the other guy signed it. The other author had signed the book, but Mazzy didn't sign it. So
okay,
it's
okay,
a
you'll have
used
to get him to
copy, you
sign.
know.
So I remember this lyric, this Dylan lyric. I was singing it on piano one time and it was like come mothers and fathers across the land, don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. And it was the first time that I had heard that lyric and thought about my own kids.
Wow.
Suddenly it was like, oh no, it's not me who's beyond their command, it's them who's beyond my command, you know?
Uh-huh.
And I was recent because I did this Japan vinyl tag thing. A lot of people one of the categories was live at Budokan, and a lot of people they know that the Beatles at live at Budokan, and there's a video you can watch it on YouTube, a really high definition quality. I don't know if
Uh-huh.
it's of interest to you, but all the kids are down on the floor and and all the parents are in like one section. And you can hear all
Wow.
the kids like screaming, and you look, and the camera pans up to the parents once, and all the parents are just like looking at each other, like, "What the fuck is happening?" And I'm just like, "What must it be like to be like?" Because my kids are like crazy for what they're crazy
So
for. And
so Budokan is that old?
oh, you played the Budokan, yeah?
Yeah. I
Well
played
that
in 88. In 88 I played
that's
there.
crazy. You played the same stage as the
So
Beatles, dude.
that's an old theater. I didn't even
You
know that
played
was
the
that old because it's
that
huge.
It's not that old, to be honest, and that was sort of the farces about it, is that there was all of this ultra conservative right winger kind of people saying that they were defacing it. The problem was that there was no bigger venue for the Beatles to play. Apparently,
Right, right.
it was the biggest place in Tokyo that they could play, and they demanded there at least be a 10,000 seater room. So
Mhm.
note to VC, Scott here has played a room of 10,000 people, and so, but they said, it's a sacred place. It's actually on the imperial family. I don't know the 400-year history of Tokyo. Tokyo is the third capital of Japan. Of course, the emperor, emperorate, the empress, the emperorship has existed for, I think, like 1600 years or something. I forget what it is, and it goes on to like the gods before that. But the capital has moved from Kyoto to Nara, back to Tokyo, and it came to Tokyo in like 1600 or something like that. And they have this giant piece of property in the middle of the city, and and then the rest of the city was built around this property.
I've been there.
You've been there, right? Exactly. So the
No,
Budokan
but
is
wait.
on. Yeah.
I trespassed there by mistake.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh no. They're like, what are you doing in here? You're like, you're not
I was there
allowed
my
in here.
morning run because I was trying to like stay in shape for the show,
Yeah.
and so I was running, and I happened to see these gates that were open.
Right.
These gates, and it was this beautiful path. It was
Right.
all this gorgeous foliage and all this. So I just kind of walked in there like, whoa, this is amazing. And a little while later, these people came out with these armed guards came out
Oh no.
and
Not
let me
here,
out of
buddy.
there.
Luckily,
they
you
go, this
didn't.
is the Emperor's Palace. You can't come in here.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah.
Stupid American,
Yeah. It sounds like something I would do, but I've never done that. That's funny.
Oh
Well, the
my God.
Budokan is on it's adjacent. It's like it's land that was given back to the city. So it feels like it's part of the imperial palace, but it's something else. And because because sumo and judo, but sumo, it's actually like a sacred sport, and when you're fighting for the kami-samas, for the gods, and so it's connected to the imperial family. Is it's said that is the seventh, or like the 700th or whatever it is, generation of the god of the sun. And so when the Allied forces, when they demanded the surrender, one of the terms of the surrender was that the emperor had to relinquish the claim of divinity.
Oh,
which is really clever, because
yeah.
it killed the fight. It killed the spirit of the people.
I'm sure it did. Yeah, that
it's
had to be
very,
pretty heavy duty for them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just the fact that they could do that. It was like, it was not necessarily that people believed that the emperor was, but the fact that they could take that much culture from the nation was devastating.
Yeah.
And so, but there are these guys who hang on to these things, and and they didn't want and even though the Budokan itself was built, maybe there was something there 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago, but whatever is there now was built like in 1966 or 60. No, it must have been like 61 or something. It's not ancient. So but because they did sumo there, it was considered like sacred. It was considered like a religious holy place, even though it's not. And it's a bit brutal if you remember it. It's kind of, do you particularly remember it being like a good sounding room?
I don't remember that much about it. Because you got to realize, like, when you're doing a show there or when you're rehearsing, it's dark,
right?
And you don't really get to see everything because you're just so busy doing so many things. So it's like a whirlwind rehearsal and all that, and you have to go in your green room and stay there. You have to stay put where they tell you to stay, and so you come out to the stage when everything's dark and everything's decorated. So it's not, you don't get to see it the way an observer gets to see it. You know what I mean?
It's got like a thin veneer of tradition on it, but basically it's a concrete hockey rink, essentially. I mean, if you get, I've never been backstage or been in the back, but I imagine it's filled with corridors where they can move trucks in and out, and it doesn't have this, like, it's not like a wooden structure. It's a very brutal concrete structure, and it doesn't actually sound that great, but it's a cool place to go. Why are we talking about the Budokan? I got off track.
The Beatles.
The Beatles. Yeah. So that was one thing I was mentioning. Oh yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I don't remember where I was going, but yeah. So your sister was into the Beatles, and then you said your next brother, that's the one I mentioned? Whose name? Okay, one more time. Isn't it Champ?
Wayne
And
was
Wayne's a
into
reggae
reggae.
dude. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so he's a so. Did you now these stories of you going to Hard Days Night or Hard Days Night? Was in New York? Or you originally from New
Yeah,
York? Is that right?
it was in the Bronx. It was in Bronx, New
Okay,
York. Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
And then I'm sure you can't possibly be aware of this, but I grew up going to how did reggae filter into your life? How did okay, everybody dug it, you just dug it. Did you ever go
Well,
layers deeper or like
the thing is, my brother was into it first, and I
Mhm.
didn't really know much. I mean, I come from Caribbean background. My parents are Caribbean, so I grew up with calypso and soca and all that kind of stuff, and even salsa because I have Cuban and Puerto Rican family,
Cool. I
cousins and
didn't know
stuff.
that. That's
So
cool.
so I grew up with that kind of thing, salsa music and soca. We used to dance to calypso when I was a little kid, but I didn't, and we also ska was. We didn't really know that much. I didn't really know much about ska, that kind of the early ska stuff. I didn't really know that stuff because I wasn't from there. But then my brother got into it with his friends because it was also, you got to remember, it was also um, a time when people were getting to the it was post Black Panther and all that, so it was a lot of black movements, and people were getting into um, Farrakhan and all that. My brother was into Farrakhan and Muhammad Ali, and he wanted to
Wow.
change his name and all. It was all that kind of. Plus, it was also
I
the smoking culture too. It was happening with the teenagers. But the first time I really got into Bob Marley was Exodus. I just happened to see it in the store. I know my brother loved Bob Marley, so I said, I'm going to pick it up. It was on sale, so I picked it up and I took it home and I put it on. And as soon as it fades up into Natural Mystic, I was hooked. I was mesmerized. I was like, I'd never heard anything like this before in my life. I mean, he was telling me stories, but they weren't fake stories. These were stories that you could tell it was something from his soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was hooked to him. It was like the first time I heard Tracy Chapman. I was totally hooked. When they first hear the breathe on that record, it's just like, whoa, you know what I mean? There's certain
That's such
artists that just do that to you.
mm,
And that
mm.
record just blew me away. I could not stop playing it. And my brother was like, see, I told you, it's great, great stuff. And then I got into reggae because of that.
That's
And of
great.
course, later on, I was into punk and stuff. And then I got into the two-tone stuff from the UK, the newer ska. And I was into Selector and Madness and all that kind of stuff too. So.
That's cool, man. It's a great
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Natural Mystic, such a great tune as well.
Oh
I
gosh.
have well, yeah, great, amazing tune. I think I had a bunch of like well, first of all, I have why is it not where it normally is? Oh, it's because it's sitting right here on my chair. I look every day, I look at this this beautiful Bob Marley
Yeah.
painting that my friend Miro did. It sits up here on
I
my
think you gave me a card
conference
with
shelf.
Marley.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
so.
That's right.
Yeah, you
Oh,
gave
oh yeah.
from
Okay,
your own.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you got.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's great. I forgot
Those
all
are
about that.
beautiful.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, Bob was huge in my world for a long
Hmm.
time. I found out that and reggae at large, really. But two funny things I'll share. I found this crazy. There's actually two or maybe even three. There's two insane reggae shops here in Tokyo. Like these Japanese guys go to Jamaica and they go into the supermarket and they're like, "Do you have records?" And they're like, "I'm shopping. What do you want? Like, do you have records? Do you have records? Do you have records? They just they're shameless on hunting for records, and they get led down like an alley where one guy finds out that there's somebody's come from Japan with deep pockets and is selling records, and
Oh
then that
wow.
next thing you know, they've got they end up collecting these insane collections. And I asked the guy in Japanese sumo, to speak about sumo again, there's the top guy, there's the yokozuna, and then there's this tiers, and the tournaments calendars, or how do the tournament, whatever they call them, the what do you call those things? The graphs, that have all the
Yeah, yeah.
tournament, the who's winning, and they have a different kind of vertical version of the in Japan, and they're so gorgeous, and they're these beautiful. They look like artworks, but they're just tournament. They're just the names of people, but these guys do them in this really stylized way. And the way that they're written, you can kind of tell who are the top people and who are the next tier peoples. And there are these rankings, and the lowest guys with the smallest names are at the bottom, and then it goes all the way up to the top. Anyway, I go into this reggae shop and I'm like, oh man, like I know reggae music, but I don't really I'd like to know it like I know rock and roll music, or I'd like to just and he said, okay, well, he made this sumo. He's like, sumo, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, well, you got Bob Marley here. He's like the Yokozuna. And then you've got Toots and, whoever it is. And then he like made this list up for me. And he kept going down, and he compared it to sumo, and he went down all the way down to the ranks. He's like, you got they all roads basically lead back to Marley essentially. But I love to go into there. But he told me something really funny and cool. He said that, first of all, I've got a big, huge reggae fan. I've got a big reggae collection here. And some of these old, these early reggae records, they're like pre-ska records, are all this doo-wop stuff that they were picking up on the radio waves from New Orleans and places like this. Yeah. And then the ska thing started to emerge from this. And one summer, I read, or maybe it was Kazuki-san told me, he's like, one summer was so hot. There was like, every summer is hot, I imagine, in Jamaica. But he was like, there was one summer that was like, all the parties spilled out into the streets. The clubs couldn't contain the energy and the heat. It was just like entirely too hot. And they were all dancing to, the ska tunes at the time. And the audience was like, it's too fast, it's too hot.
Wow,
it's too hot. You gotta got anything slower? And that's where like Rocksteady comes from.
That makes sense though,
right? And then it was, once it slowed down and once it like fell all the way on the upbeat, then it becomes reggae. But it was from the heat and from the intensity of ska that it went backwards and slowed down to reggae. That was the story he told me. I don't know if that's like urban legend or whatever. But
it makes sense though, and
it makes sense. It kind of makes sense, right?
To me, I could see it becoming that, because reggae is very laconic. It's very laid back. Even though there's a force there, it's laid back, and you need to be laid back in that kind of heat. I mean, I've been in the Caribbean, and it gets. Yeah, you can almost eat the air. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like that thick sometimes,
The hot wind, right? You're like, how could the wind be? It's like an oven, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, so where I was going with this is that like, how could I know Bob Marley is ubiquitous, but like in my little town in Tulsa, Oklahoma, every summer we had the Reggae Fest. Now, I don't know if every town in America has a Reggae Fest, but we had a Reggae Fest. I assume that it was the most podunk Reggae Fest that you could visit in all of the country.
Probably not.
And I found out later that this guy who put it together was this big hotshot guy who is like beloved in Jamaica, who brought heaps and heaps and heaps of artists over. And apparently the Tulsa Reggae Fest, which I think is still going like on 30 years or something, they are responsible for helping to spread reggae music in America, which I was very proud to hear that. And Bob Marley famously recorded at the church, Leon Russell's recording studio. If you can look at some old Bob Marley labels, and he's got Shelter Records, which was Leon's label. So yeah, there's a little bit of reggae roots in Tulsa.
I don't think there was a lot of reggae action in New York. I think there was reggae clubs, and there's a place called the Reggae Lounge that was in the East Village, not far from CBGB's, and people used to bounce from CBGB's to the Reggae Lounge. Those are the coolest places to go to at night. I mean, it was dangerous in the area, but those are two places to go to party. And if you got into the Reggae Lounge, man, that was the place to be, man. And CBGB's, of course, was like iconic, but yeah, but it wasn't a lot of the reggae. There's a reggae rise up here in Tampa Bay that's huge here. They're really into reggae here. Sure. I think because of the hot weather too. I think it has to do, and we're so close to the Caribbean, so there's a lot of reggae bands here.
I don't think nobody I know in vinyl community world is keeping up with current reggae. Nobody's past 70s reggae and Bob Marley. Nobody knows anything about Rude or dance hall or dub or
I'm not that into dance hall. I just never got into it. It's just it depends on what it is, but most of it I'm not that into. And I like some modern artists, and I can't even name them. I know that when Rihanna first came out, Rihanna was great when she first came out. She did she was totally like reggae when she started. Now she's like this huge pop star, but like her reggae shit was good. I thought it was
Okay.
really good.
I gotta
You
go
know,
hear that. I don't know if I've
yeah,
ever
her
heard that
earlier
before. I
stuff.
don't
Yeah,
know. Okay. So you get some rock and roll, jazz, you get the Beatles, you get reggae. This all makes up your interest in music. And but you've got also this like, and your mom said country. Like when you say country, was she like old, what do they call them? The Merle, what are the Merle Haggard, what are those
no,
guys
she was
called?
more. Well, she discovered Charlie Pride, so that was you didn't see too many black people in country at least
Right.
in the 70s and the 80s. Before that, yes, it was, but I mean, and now today, of course, you see a lot more people of color in country. But she started with
Wow.
that, and then of course she liked Loretta Lynn, Johnny
Loretta
Cash,
Lynn. Yeah.
the old school, she liked that Tammy Wynette, George Jones.
Is she New Yorker? Where's she from?
My mother's born and raised in Harlem. Yeah, my father
Okay,
too.
interesting.
My father
Okay.
was actually born in the Caribbean, but he was raised in Harlem. Yeah,
And it must have been just like a amalgamation of every kind of culture and music and everything all
yeah,
mixing together. That would have been a really amazing. Um, yeah, I Charlie Pride. I'm looking him up. Like I've seen his face before. I don't know if I've ever heard a Charlie Pride song, but it looks
yeah.
quite interesting. It also Rosine Sharon, I don't know. No,
Mhm.
sorry. Coran, Ronnie Millsap,
Yeah.
Conway Twitty. I don't know. These are just like people also searched for.
Hmm.
Cool. Charlie. Okay, that's new for me. Dion Pride is the same as who's Dion Pride? Do we know?
I don't
Is that
think that's his family. I don't think
different
they're
family? Okay.
connected. Yeah,
So you
but
get some country from your mom, some show tunes from your mom. I'll let you go here, but like, how exactly does that make how does your music? Where do all the branches come down into your trunk? I don't know if that's the right way to put it.
like what you know what I mean? How where do I
I
come?
mean, I don't know. Let's say like who was your first
Oh
record?
well,
What was your
well
first thing that
my
you
first
loved?
45. My first
Uh-huh.
45 was the Name Game.
The Name Game. Okay.
Yeah, and my second 45 was the Temptations, My Girl. I remember that clearly.
Okay.
And we used to buy 45s in the supermarket. They used to have them in the grocery stores,
Right,
and they
right,
were like
right.
10 cents or whatever. I remember that. And so my mother asked me to say, pick a record that you want to, so I would pick those kind of things. But my first album was What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. That's my first
Okay.
album. But my first absolute love when I really was obsessed with somebody
Yeah.
was when I first heard Rufus featuring Shaka Khan.
Okay.
And I was obsessed with. I had a mad crush on Shaka Khan. Everybody had a mad crush on her because she was so
Yeah.
sexy,
Amazing. Yeah.
and her voice was just like it went right through you. And I fell in love with her immediately, and I was obsessed with her and Stevie Wonder. Those two were like it for me,
What was
for a
Stevie
long time.
Wonder? Stevie in the late 70s, early 80s. What are those records? I can think of
You
like
mean the
early
trilogy?
Stevie.
You mean the Intervisions?
Yeah, is that so?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, all right. So
but I
that's
was
kind of the
into him
stuff
even before, like
later.
when he
Before,
was
okay. Yeah,
when he was a Berry
Motown.
Gordy cutout. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
okay.
Like he
Right.
did what Berry Gordy told him to do.
Yeah.
My Cherie Amour, that period, I was into Stevie because his voice was so unique.
Yeah.
He was so soulful. I hadn't heard anybody that soulful.
And
His
genius on
voice was just
everything, right?
his voice was so muscular. You know what I mean? As a child, even.
Right.
And so I just really was enamored with that. And I think he's one of the reasons why I became a singer. Him and Donny Hathaway, those two people. I said, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want to sing like that. You know what I
Cool.
mean? Just
What
powerhouses,
you mentioned Prince Nelson.
Hmm.
Forgive me for not knowing Prince's last name. I'm embarrassed by that. And happy birthday to Prince. But
Yeah.
I was talking about like loyalty. Just like sometimes like we take like but I can imagine Prince, Dave Chappelle, I think it was talking about. He's like, or no, it's Chris Rock. Chris Rock is talking about how he's like a mega fan of Prince, and I'm sure that
Hmm.
there's like I wish I would gladly be a mega fan of Prince if somebody would like
I
if I
am
just
too.
had
Yeah.
yeah, right. I'm not but Chris Rock is talking about how like if you go to a Prince show, like 80% of the people there want to hear Purple Rain, or they want to
Right.
hear the 5 or 6 hits, and
Not
and
me.
20% of
Yeah.
people want to hear everything new. They don't need to hear any hits. They just want to hear the newest shit that
I
Prince
just
has.
want to hear him jam. I just want to hear him jam. That's it.
Right.
Because he was definitely like, you're into Fish.
Mm.
You go
Yeah,
to a
he's
Prince concert. It's a jam. It's 2 hours, 2.5 hours of jam.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wasn't into like just doing the hits. He was like, I'm just gonna jam on this song for 10, 15 minutes and you're gonna have a good time. And you're gonna love it. And if you don't love it, fuck you, who cares? And that's what I loved about him. He was just,
So
and you know what? You loved it anyway. you know? Yeah.
yeah,
He
I mean,
just
Enigma. I mean, they broke the mold. Yeah, it
and
was
he also
singular, totally singular.
he and speaking as a, I'm in the GLBTQ community. So
Mm.
David Bowie to me and him gave me permission to be who I am because he Prince he transcended any kind of label. He transcended anything. I mean, I know he knew who he was and everything. He was pretty much probably heterosexual, but but in terms of his public persona, he didn't care what anybody thought of him. He didn't care. He wore makeup. He wore. I mean, when he first came out, they were talking about him in the Village Voice, talking about his concerts in little clubs, where they said this little skinny little guy with like a leotard and like leggings and boots and no shirt with eyeliner and people throwing beer cans at him and stuff, and he didn't care. He was like, this is me, this is what I'm going to do, this is my image. I don't want to tell you if I'm straight, I don't want to tell you if I'm gay, I don't care. I don't we're not going to go there. And he persevered through all that, and he still became whoever he became Prince. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he didn't have the fear. There was no fear of being whatever you want, whatever you think I am. Think it. You know what I mean? I'm here for the music. And that's
You
what I
see,
really dug about him.
You
You know?
see, you see Prince doing that. He does the splits thing where he like does the splits and then
Yeah.
he, like pops back up, right? And when you see those old like leotard versions of shirtless Prince with leggings on or whatever, he's got the same moves, right?
Yeah.
He was so formed like
Mhm.
from the beginning,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like
from the very beginning. Yeah.
I mean, even though it evolved in all these ways,
And I
it
mean, it was
was
thrift store. It was thrift store looking at first, because I mean, nothing was. It wasn't slick what he was doing. It was very like almost like he was pulling things out of the thrift store. You know what I mean?
yeah. I
It
mean,
wasn't really
imaginative,
flashy.
imagine, right?
It's real. It was almost trashy looking what he was doing. He wore like boas, like feather boas, and things like that.
Yeah,
And I think he got that from Sly Stone and stuff. He was thinking in those, and also Parliament. I mean, they wore diapers on stage. I mean, come on.
I know.
So I think he just wanted to just go for it. And probably was influenced by Bowie too. Just create a character and just be whatever. I thought that was cool, and that to me made him cool.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
talk about like living in the time of like a McCartney, where another McCartney every 300 years, somebody like a McCartney comes along. But I
yeah,
think Prince is one of those. Prince, Bowie, maybe I don't know, but I think so. If
yeah.
we only hadn't lost him at 57, that's the
I know,
tragedy. I mean,
I
it's like we
know.
could have gotten 20 more years out of him.
And
Yeah,
the truth of the matter is, right before he died, I was not that I was no longer a fan, but I had moved on to other things, and I still was a fan. I still bought his stuff, but I listened to him kind of like, yeah, I dig it. I dig it's cool, but I wasn't like, die hard, like I got to go to every concert and all that stuff. And so, because you think of him as being here forever, and so I can get back to him. You know what I mean? So when he died, I felt like, oh, I cheated myself, man. I should have gone to the musicology concerts, and I should have gone to Vegas when he was in Vegas. And I kept saying he'll be around because he's great. He's always going to be around. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's a mistake that I had made. Not seeing him during that period, because that musicology, I talk about that record a lot, and a lot of people sleep on that record, but is one of the funkiest records of the early
That's not the one where he
2000s.
has the 3 sunglasses on. Is that the one? Or
No,
is it
no,
called?
no.
Okay.
That's something age. That's later. That's a later
Okay.
one. But musicology has like that kind of graffiti behind
Oh, yeah,
him.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
I know this one. Okay.
that album
Um,
is so funky. It's so funky. It's like it's definitely the direction. It's I think James
yeah.
Brown would have been proud of him had he heard that
Mm,
record. It's
that's
that
nice.
funky. It's
Okay.
that funky. It smells. It's that funky to me anyway.
I like that. I'm gonna use that. I like
It's
that. It's
funky.
so funky it smells, man. That's so funky it stinks. That's good. Adam
Yeah,
Yauch of the Beastie Boys was a little bit like that for me. When he was gone, I was like, no,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's supposed to be here forever.
Yes, yes.
Oh no, the Beasties. I feel like the Chili Peppers, like I don't feel like I'm not like a giant Chili Peppers fan, but if like Flea goes, I'm gonna be like, oh
I know.
no, Flea,
Well,
I love
that's funny
Flea.
you said that. You said it because I was always a Chili Peppers fan. You know who I found out about Chili Peppers from? This
Who's
is
that?
gonna be you're gonna think this is weird.
That's
I
so
went
funky.
to
It stinks. I'm still thinking about it. Sorry, keep going, keep going, keep going.
but I was also myself and my best friend Johnny. We were both into Bette Midler. Stay with me on this, right?
I'm with you.
I've seen her 5 times in concert. One of the best live performers I've ever seen.
I'm
She's
sure.
killer. She's killer. She can make you laugh, cry, and everything in one show. She can
I believe it.
bring everybody to tears. But anyway, during one of her concerts that I saw her at, she actually I don't think she did a song of theirs, but she said, I do covers a lot. She goes, I like to do covers of a lot of people who people don't know. And she talks about Tom Waits and all this and all that. And she says, there's a band out in California. She goes, they're going to be something. These guys are unbelievable. And they're called Red Hot Chili Peppers. And one of these days, I'm going to do one of their songs. But she goes, I just wanted to share. It was in my mind, and I want to share that with you guys. So listen for this band, Red Hot Chili Peppers. This is before they were big.
Wow. Wow.
And she goes, they're going to be something. She goes, these kids are talented. They're
Okay.
really talented.
Right.
And everybody, and she's talking to like matronly ladies, this, you know what I mean? Like, and
Sure.
there's gay guys in the audience, of course, but but like it just fell out of her head because she was talking about how she does covers of unknown people and things like that. But I said, oh, let me go check them out. And I was like, this is weird that she likes this,
Right.
and it was their early stuff. They were early records, and I got into them then. But now after, I don't know, a couple of hours past Sex Magic, after Californication, I kind of lost track of them. I mean, I bought their
Right.
records, but I never really got it because I felt like they were repeating themselves a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's the
That's
same
how
thing
I
with
felt.
the Beasties. It's like I bought Check Your Head, I bought Ill Communication, but when like the Five Boroughs and when Hello Nasty, maybe I got it. I mean, like all those those last 3 albums, like I was kind of like, do I need more Beastie albums? I don't know if I
Yeah,
need. But then
yeah.
Adam Yauch was gone, and I was like, that's
Oh,
my
I
soundtrack.
know, I know.
I know. I don't want them to be gone.
Make it not be true.
There's a theory in environmentalism that like eco-terrorism, it like these guys who chains themselves to trees and
Mhm.
sabotage fishing boats or
Yeah.
bulldozers and things like this, they they move the needle. Wait, I'm gonna lose myself on this tangent. I may have already lost myself. Where do I have to go back to? I think before I even go down that, I was gonna try to bring something around. I
Uh,
lost it. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. But yeah, man, it's just so yeah, last question, and then we'll wrap this up. But
yeah.
um l- loyalty. Like you mentioned Stevie, you
Mhm.
mentioned Prince, you mentioned Marvin Gaye, you mentioned Bette Midler. Who is there anybody who's in your repertoire of musical appreciation that you're just like, I mean, I know I'm sure there's like heaps that you're like 1,000% in, but these bands that like they don't go away. When the new albums come out, you don't lose interest. You're like, I got to get it. I'm all in. I'm 1,000% in. Do you have anybody? Do you have any comment on loyalty, on a musical loyalty, or just an idea I've been playing with? I'm not sure if everybody. It might be a singular kind of thing to like real mania, like unchecked, unhealthy,
you know who it,
like
yeah,
deadhead
this
kind
one.
of mania.
I didn't think I had one because like Stevie Wonder's later records didn't really excite me. The last few, they're good, but they're good. They're not phenomenal. They're good. The same thing goes for like a lot of, like I love Shaka Khan. She's going to be coming out with an album that she did with Prince. She already did one with him, but she's coming out with a second one, so I'm excited about that. However, I think the one artist that I'm all in on all the time, no matter what he does, because I think he's one of the greatest songwriters ever in rock and roll. For me, it's Elvis Costello. That's it for me. I mean, he can do
dude, look at
anything,
this.
and I'll buy it.
It's sitting
Anything,
right
and I'll
here.
buy it. Yeah,
Okay,
because
interesting. Elvis
he's to
Costello.
me the most intellectual songwriter. His wit is so strong. His imagery, his sarcasm, everything about what he does. I mean, Two Little Hitlers. I mean, all those songs that some people don't even know, but like, I like his deep cuts. His deep cuts are so phenomenal, and his
You know,
writing is so good.
he's
So
got a
good.
big discography, an intimidatingly big one, and
Hmm.
I think he really all my senpai friends, all my sort of 10 years, 5, 10, 15 years older friends than me I might hear the same kind of, I'm all in on Elvis Costello. I have 5 Elvis Costello records.
Hmm.
I don't I can't say I would know the tracking on them.
Hmm.
I like them. I bought one just the other day. I'm in
Hmm.
on Elvis, and
I love it.
he actually is connected to Woody Guthrie, I think, and Bob Dylan, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know exactly know why, but I went to the Bob Dylan Center in Tulsa on my last visit there, and Elvis Costello is all over the place, having written, and then
Wow.
he had that moment with Paul McCartney, I think, where they thought, anyway. Um, and to your point, coming back here to Elvis Costello, but to your point about the later Stevie records kind of like not capturing your imagination. The later ones,
Right.
and Dylan's discography is so big that maybe he's got lots of phases and chapters of his career that are like not that great. But I
Yeah.
bet you, like when Stevie's gone or when Dylan's gone, suddenly those records that didn't compel you like those
Hmm.
inner visions and those early records. Like I'll bet they'll capture you. You'll be like, oh, I didn't appreciate that
Maybe.
when he was here, but now
Yeah.
I get it. I totally get Bowie's like that. I listen to Bowie records. I'm like, how did I never
Yeah.
fall in love with this one? This
Yeah.
one's crazy. But to Elvis Costello, what's your best Elvis? What's the top three Elvis Costello records? Maybe it's impossible to name them, but like where for a newbie, for somebody who doesn't
Well, for me,
really. Mhm.
start from the beginning. You have to have my aim is true. You have to have This Year's Model.
Oh no.
You have to have a track.
I
The one with the elephants on the cover.
Yeah, I
That
just
has
heard.
Oliver's Army hold on. But well, the early stuff. Yeah, hyphen. The Get Happy and Punch the Clock. Get those.
King of them.
Those will set the stage for everything else. Some people say Imperial Ballroom. I never got into that until much later. I think it was too grown up for me or something at the time. It was it was very laid back, and I was like, I don't get into this one at all. But I mean, now I appreciate it now. King of America is another good
I
album
have King of
too.
America.
Yeah.
I have that one.
But
Hey man. Hey
Armed
dude.
Forces, Armed Forces. That's what it is. Armed Forces.
I'm gonna have to go back and make memos here and write this down.
Yeah.
My kid, dude, I gotta cut this short. My kid has been awake for 30 minutes, and I've been sitting here lollygagging
Ooh.
around it.
Okay.
And I thought it was all good in the hood, and I just heard a door slam, and
He's upset.
I think I need to boogie. Yeah, I think I need to boogie. I went on a little too long.
All right.
It was fun hanging out, man. I gotta.
Hey, this
Yeah,
was
go
great.
listen
This
to-
was great.
Yeah, good hanging out. I'm gonna. Sorry to.
But
cut
you
it
have a
off
good
short.
day. It's
Great,
morning
yeah,
for you,
great
right?
musical conversation. Buck stops here. Thanks for being here, and everybody else.
care.
Sorry, everybody.
Thanks for
just
having me.
Hey, thanks for being here, Scotty. Fun
All right.
conversation. Let's do it again soon.
Okay, bye.
Peace. Bye, everybody.